Hi there, and welcome to a brand new project video where you'll build and deploy a fully responsive website with modern UI and UX in React.js. This GPT-3 landing page tutorial is the best modern UI UX tutorial that you can currently find on YouTube. There are many tutorials out there teaching you how to build a website consistent of a navigation bar, a few divs, and a footer. Boring, right? Today, you'll learn how to take a Figma design and turn it into a beautiful website, all the way from design, over development, to deployment. This video is perfect for you if you want to learn how to transform a Figma design into a fully functioning website, if you want to improve your CSS skills, and if you want to learn how to create modern and responsive websites. The design we'll be using today is just one out of countless phenomenal designs created by AR Shakir. He gave me permission to use his GPT-3 design as the basis for this video. Shakir offers many more impressive designs, so definitely make sure to check out his site. I'll put the link down in the description. What are the prerequisites for building such an amazing website? This course is completely beginner friendly. We're going to start easy and then move to more complex topics. Every step of the way will be explained. Alongside building the website, you'll learn React functional components and their reusability, React file and folder structure, fundamental CSS properties to master Flex and Grid, fundamentals of CSS BEM Model, from soft and pleasant animations to complex gradients, perfectly placed media queries for satisfactory responsiveness covering almost all devices. And at the end, you'll learn how to deploy your websites to extremely fast servers and give them a custom domain name. I initially planned on putting this as a paid course, but I later decided to release it completely free for you guys here on YouTube. So, to support this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It shouldn't take more than a few seconds, and I really appreciate it. If this video reaches 10,000 likes, I'm recording a second video in the Build Modern UI UX Websites with React.js series. Also, make sure to stick till the end of the video where I'll challenge you to add your own code to this project to make it even better. Now, let's dive right in. Before we start building out our project, let's first get the hosting and domain name for our new site, your portfolio, or any site you'll create in the future. Hostinger is my personal recommendation, and right now they're offering crazy Black Friday deals, so I simply needed to show this to you. They offer a great price to quality ratio, extremely fast servers, and most importantly, 24/7 chat support. Let's see what's offered with some of the most popular hosting plans, and let's grab those Black Friday deals right now. Hostinger's plans are extremely cheap. I mean, $1 a month for hosting for one website, and you'll also get a free SSL certificate. That means that you'll have HTTPS security. In this case, we're going to go with the premium shared hosting because it offers a few great things you need when building out your website. It gives you a free email account, free SSL, but most importantly, you also get a free domain name. Of course, if you go with single shared hosting, you can still get a domain name separately. As I've mentioned in the beginning, our GPT-3 website needs to be fast and reliable. For that reason, having a custom domain name and email and a fast website load, it will definitely make your website stand out from the crowd. Since I've partnered with Hostinger, they decided to give you an even bigger discount on top of all of this. So make sure to click the link in the description. There you're also going to find a discount code and then come back to this website. Then you can go ahead and select a plan. I've selected a premium shared hosting, and in here we just have to choose the period of our hosting. With the crazy discount going on right now, I'll definitely choose 48 months to save the most money. Down below, you can choose your method of payment, and most importantly, you can get an even bigger discount by entering a custom coupon. You can click Have a Coupon Code right here and enter the code JAVASCRIPTMASTERY to get an even bigger discount. After you purchase this plan, you'll be redirected to your Hostinger's dashboard, and I'll see you right there. As you can see, I'm personally using Hostinger for my brand, for all of my websites. If you purchase the premium shared hosting, you should see this claim domain button right here. If you purchase the single shared hosting, you can go to domains on the navigation bar and then purchase the domain there. In my case, I'll click claim the domain button. Let's try with GPT3-JSM. And as you can see, it was $14 before, and now we get it completely for free. So let's go ahead and click claim domain. Our domain is being registered right now. And this is our domain overview. What we can do right now is go back to home and we can set up our premium shared hosting. So let's go to setup. We can click start now. And as you can see, Hostinger offers immediate hosting with WordPress and WooCommerce. But in this case, we're going to click this button at the bottom, skip, I will start from scratch. We can choose a domain right here and finish setup. The setup is right now being initialized, and after that is done, we'll be able to start coding out our project, and then at the end of the video, we're going to deploy our website. While our hosting is setting up, I just wanted to quickly let you know that there is the GitHub repository containing the entire code for this project. So if you ever get stuck, just make sure to visit this GitHub and compare your code with the code that's on here. That should help you solve all of your issues for you. While you're here, I would also appreciate it if you gave this repository a star. There we go, our website is ready. Let's go to a control panel, and here we are. At the end of the video, as I've mentioned, we're simply going to deploy our code right here using the file manager. With that said, let's dive straight into the code. As we always do on JavaScript Mastery, we're going to start from the complete beginning by creating a new empty folder. We can name it something like GPT3 underscore, and you can put your name here. In this case, I'm going to say JSM. Once you have your folder, you can then open up an empty Visual Studio Code window and simply drag and drop it there. Once you do that, you can go to View and then Terminal. This is going to open up the integrated Visual Studio Code terminal that's going to allow us to initialize our React application. And let me show you how you can do that. We can start by running npx create-react-app and then simply type /. This is going to initialize a new React application straight inside of the newly created folder. Of course, to run this command, you have to have Node installed. So if you don't already have Node, simply Google Node and download it. That way, you'll be able to run this command if you came across any issues. This process is going to take about a minute, so I'm going to pause this video and I'll be right back. And our app finished initializing. You should be able to see a few files and folders pop up, so let's go ahead and see what that is about. In my case, first thing I have is the Git folder. For some of you, this might be hidden, but completely ignore that because it's not going to be important for the rest of this video. Then we have our node modules, which is going to contain all of the dependencies we're going to install. This is our public folder where we have the index.html we're going to hook our entire React application to. And finally, the most important folder is the source folder. This is where we're going to create our React components. As you can see right now, there is a lot of files and folders that we might not need. So what I usually like to do is completely delete the source folder and then create a new one from scratch. That way, I'll show you how everything is done completely from scratch and we won't have any unused files. Our folder was deleted and we can create a new one by simply typing source or src. Then we can create the most important React file, which is the index.js. Inside of there, we can say import. That's going to be React from React. And only in this file, we also need to import React DOM from React-DOM. This is going to allow us to hook our React application to our index.html. Let me show you how. You can say React DOM.render, and we want to render the application. So we can type app like this as a component, and we want to render it by saying document.getElementById, and that's going to be root. Now, as you can see, this is red right now because our app hasn't been defined. So for now, let's simply say import app from /app. Right now, this file doesn't exist yet, but we're going to create it really soon. And let me also explain the second part. What is this div with an ID of root? Well, if we go into the public folder, index.html, you'll be able to notice that we have a big file here, but if we space this out correctly, remove some of the comments here, some of the comments there, also remove this comment and this no script here, you'll be able to notice that this is nothing more than a most basic HTML file that has just one div with an ID of root. Inside of here, our entire application will go. So that's exactly what we're doing here. We're saying this app component is going to be rendered inside of the div with an ID of root. So now let's create that app. Inside of the source, we can create a new file called app.js. Inside of there, we can run a command called rafce. This is a React functional component. If what I've just done seems like magic to you, you might not have the right extension. So just go ahead and search for ES7 snippets, and then download and install ES7 React Redux GraphQL React Native snippets. Once you do that and reload your Visual Studio Code, you should be able to run this command and immediately get a functional component like this one. This is going to simplify and speed up your workflow. Inside of here, for now, we can just create an h1 tag and simply say GPT3 inside of there. Now, before we go ahead and run our application, we can go to View and Terminal and just install the dependencies that we're going to use. This is a special project video because we're going to use just one single dependency. So you can type npm install, and that's going to be react-icons. And why is that so special? Because everything you're going to see in this video is going to be done from scratch without using extra dependencies. We're going to turn that Figma design into a compelling website without using any dependencies, just by using your React skills. We're going to give this dependency a moment to install, and we'll be right back. There we go. Our dependency installed, and we can simply type npm start to start our application on localhost 3000. And if we've done everything correctly, we should be able to see just one single heading saying GPT-3. Doesn't look like something right now, just a basic white page with nothing on it. But soon enough, this is going to be filled with code, assets, colors, backgrounds, everything. And it's going to look and feel amazing. So to start off, let's create the basic folder and file structure for our entire project. This might seem like a boring process to start with, but this is going to save us so much time later on. So the first thing we can do is create a new folder inside of the source folder called components. Inside of our components, we're going to have just a few components, and these are going to be article. Then also inside of the components folder, we're going to have the brand component. We are also going to have a call to action or a CTA component. We're going to have a feature component. And finally, we're going to have our navigation bar, so we can call it navbar. Now, each one of these components is going to have two different files. The first one is going to be the corresponding component. So inside of the article, that's going to be article.jsx. That article is going to be a functional component, so we can again type rafce. For now, it can simply render out the article. Inside of each component folder, we're going to have one more file, and it's going to be called the same as the folder, in this case article, but it's going to be a CSS file. So these are going to be the styles for this specific component. And we can simply import them by saying import /article.css. Great. Now what we can do is we can repeat the process for all of the other components. So I'm going to copy this entire thing and simply do the same thing for the brand. Right here, we can create a new file called brand.jsx, and I'm simply going to paste it here. Now we just have to change a few things. We can do that by holding the Alt key and then double clicking wherever we mention the articles. Now I'm going to rename that to brand. And I'm going to rename the CSS to brand as well. Finally, we have to create a new file called brand.css. Now again, we can repeat this process for our CTA. So let's create a new component called cta.jsx, paste everything. Again, we're going to rename it to CTA, and it's going to be cta.css. Inside of there, we can also create that cta.css file. We can again repeat the same thing for the feature by creating a new feature.jsx component. And right here, you can simply paste what we have, rename it to feature, and also feature.css. As I've already mentioned, this process might be a bit boring to start with, but it's going to make our life so much simpler later on. Let's also create one new file. It's going to be called feature.css. And the last component on our list is going to be the navigation bar. So let's create a navbar.jsx. Again, we're going to paste it, rename this to navbar, and change this to navbar.css. And finally, we're going to add the navbar.css file right here. Great. Now we have the files and folders for all of our components. I'm going to close all of our open files by pressing Ctrl and then W a few times, just so we have a clean working environment. And now we can also export all of these components from a single file. Usually, we would have to do something like this. Import article from /components/article, and then one more time article to get to the exact component. And now if we wanted to use all of these components in this file, we'd have to repeat this line for every single component. The second one would be brand, the third one would be CTA, and so on. I think you can see the point. This is getting quite repetitive, and there is a simple fix to that. We can simply go to the components folder and create one new file called index.js. Inside of this file, we can say export in curly braces default as, and we can give the name of our component like article from, that's going to be /article/article. So basically what we're doing is we're exporting the article from this index file. And from this index file, we can also export all of the other components. So this one is going to be brand from brand. Then we can repeat the process. That's going to be CTA from CTA. We're also going to have a feature component like this from the featured folder. And finally, we need our navigation bar. So that's going to be navbar from navbar/navbar. Now with this approach, inside of our app, we can import all of these components in one line, believe it or not. The only thing we have to do is say import in curly braces, article, brand, CTA, and any other component you want from /components, and they're going to be imported automatically. That's great. That's a phenomenal trick that you can from now on use in all of your React applications. But in this case, we won't be importing our components straight inside of our app. The components will be imported inside of our containers. And that's another great tip I can give you. We're going to structure our React application in a few files and folders. We're going to have the components folder for smaller components. And then we're going to create a new folder called containers. This is going to be for our bigger components containing multiple of the components at the same time. You can think about a container like a bigger section of the page. So let's go ahead and repeat the process for our containers. We're going to have quite a few. One is going to be called blog. Then the second one is going to be called features, multiple. Then we're going to have a footer. We're also going to have a header. We're going to have a possibility section like this. And we're going to have a what GPT3. There we go. So now for all of these containers, we can again create a similar structure where we're going to create a new file called blog.jsx. And we're also going to have the blog.css. There we go. Again, we can simply keep copying and pasting an empty component for now. So let's go ahead to our blog, rename this to blog, and this is going to be blog.css. And I'm going to say it one more time. I know this is getting repetitive, but later on, we'll be able to just switch between the components and start implementing real logic and real design to each one of them. Just bear with me for a few more minutes and we're going to go through it really soon. The second container on our list is going to be the features container. So let's create a features.jsx component, paste it here, and simply change this to features. The CSS file is going to be features.css. So we can create it right here. Then we're going to have our footer. So we can create a footer.jsx. Again, paste it and simply change everything to footer and footer.css. We can again go ahead and add the footer.css file. We can again repeat the same thing for the header. So create a new header.jsx file and header.css. Paste our component into the header.jsx and simply rename everything to header and header. Two more files remaining. We're going to repeat the same thing for possibility.jsx, paste it here, change everything, and also change the CSS file and add that same CSS file right here. And the last container on our list is what GPT3.jsx. We can simply paste everything, say what GPT3, and in here that's going to be what GPT3.css. So let's go ahead and add it, what GPT3.css. And with that, we are quite done with all of our files and folders. The only thing we have to do is add this index.js file to export all of the containers as well, so that we can use it straight inside of our React application. Let's go ahead and create a new index.js file inside of the containers right here. And now we can do the same thing. Export default as, that's going to be blog from /blog/blog. Now we can duplicate this a few more times. The second thing on our list is going to be features from the features folder. The third thing is going to be the footer from the footer folder. Then we're going to have the header from the header folder. And we're going to have the possibility from the possibility folder. And the last thing is going to be what GPT3 section. And that's going to be it. Now we can close all of our files and folders like this. There we go. Collapse everything and just go back inside of our app.js. Inside of here, we can use that trick that I showed you earlier. We can import in curly braces footer, blog. We're going to also import possibility. Then we're going to import features, what GPT3, and finally the header. All of this is coming from and that is containers. Finally, we're going to need a few components, so we're going to import CTA, brand, and also the navbar. These are coming from /components. Using the tricks I showed you earlier, you can see how clean our code looks like. This here would be more than 10 lines, but now we have it in just 2, and it's easily noticeable where we're importing certain things from. Finally, to complete our long setup, we're simply going to make use of all of these components right here. We're going to remove this h1. We're going to have a div that's going to have a class name. So right here, we can add a class name equal to app. Then we're going to have one more div inside of it. And this div is going to have a class name equal to gradient underscore underscore bg. Inside of here, we're going to have our navigation bar. So we can say navbar as a self-closing tab. And we're also going to have our header. Below this div, we're going to have our brand to say what our brand is about. Then we're also going to have what GPT-3. We're also going to have the features tab after that. Then we're going to have the possibility tab, or section rather. Then we're going to have the click to action. And finally, a blog section. And the last thing, of course, is going to be the footer. I think that now you should be able to understand what have we been doing so far. We've been setting up the file and folder structure and now used all of these containers and components inside of our app. So now if we go back to the browser, you can notice that everything is structured right here and separated into components. That's all that React is about. Have one single website, be it a single page or a multi-page, but don't have tens of thousands or thousands of lines as you would in a single index HTML file. With React, you can separate everything into smaller components, as we've done right now, and now we can code them out separately to keep our code base readable. Of course, this doesn't look that good for now, but as I've told you, this is going to save us so much time in the future because our entire folder and file structure is now done. With that said, let's go ahead and start implementing the general application styles, and then we're going to go to the first component on our list, which is the navigation bar. To create our main application styles, we can create a new file inside of our source called app.css. And then we can simply import it right here inside of the app.js by saying import./app.css. In here, we're going to implement some of the general styles. We can start with a star or an asterisk for all the elements. We want to set the box sizing to be equal to border-box. Then we're going to set the padding for all elements to be 0 and margin to be 0 as well. We also want to add the scroll behavior to be smooth for our scrolling later on. And then we're going to add our body tag, and we're going to set our background to be var-color-bg. This is a CSS variable for our background color. We won't be typing the variable names every time. We're simply going to use the variables themselves. So we can create one more CSS file called index.css. Inside of there, you can simply copy and paste my code because this is going to be just the setup. In here, I'm going to give you access to some kind of gradients, color backgrounds, colors for the footer, background, blog, text, and so on. And in here, we're also importing the font. So below this video, there's going to be a GitHub gist where you'll be able to find the index.css file and simply copy and paste it here. Once you have that, inside of our index.js, you can simply import /index.css. That file is now going to allow us to use these variables everywhere else in our code. We can now save this file and see if we have our background. And there we go. You cannot see the text anymore because it's black, but our background is now dark as well. Now let's add some basic styling as well. For our anchor tags, we're going to set the color to be set to unset, and we're going to remove that text decoration to none. Usually it's set to underline. Now let's focus on the important part, and that is adding the gradient. Let me show you what I mean. In here, I have our Figma design file. And as you can see, there is some kind of gradient right here on the top left. It is kind of bluish, and then it transitions to this darker color. So let's go ahead and add that gradient. To create the gradient, we're gonna use this angrytools.com/gradient. This is a great tool that's going to help us with creating our CSS gradients. The link is going to be, of course, down in the description under resources. I zoomed everything in so that you can see it a bit better. And now let's start by adding our first color. We can click on this yellow color right here, go to hex, and the first color on our list is going to be 002853. This is going to be the dark blue color. You can click on the middle one and click delete. And now on the right side, we're going to exchange this pink color with a hexadecimal color of 040C18. This is going to be that dark color. Finally, we're going to switch this to radial, and we're going to say 3% on the x-axis and 25% on the y-axis. You can see our circle is now on the top left, and that is exactly where we want to have our gradient. As you can see, our background has been created, and we even have some WebKits for this to work on all of the different browsers. Let's go ahead and copy this. We can go back to the code, and let's call this class gradient __bg. And in here, we can simply paste everything. Great. This is a phenomenal tool to create your backgrounds. Now let's see if this is actually working. If we go back to our website and reload, you can see that there's this gradient right here. Right now, it doesn't look like something, but once we add all of the illustrations and all the text for a header, it's going to look so much better. Now, let's also add a class for our gradient text. So we can say gradient and then __ text. In here, we're going to add a background, which is going to be var, and that's going to be -- gradient -text. Then we're going to add the background -clip to be equal to text. And we can add WebKits as well for this to work on all browsers. -webkit -background -clip, that's going to be text. And finally -webkit -text -fill, and then -color, that's going to be set to transparent. Great. Have we used the gradient text somewhere? I don't think we have yet, but we're going to use it soon enough. Now we also want to implement some styles for the sections because we're going to have many sections later on, so it's better to implement the styles right away. So I'm going to say .section __ padding, and we're going to give it padding of 4 rem on top and bottom and 6 rem on left and right. Now we can copy this and paste it below, but of course we don't have a colon right here, and we're simply going to rename this to section margin and then change the margin in the same way we did here. Great. Finally, we also want to add some custom CSS animations, and we don't need to code them from scratch. Let me show you a great tool that you can use. The tool is called animista.net, and I'm going to put this link below as well. Basically in here, you can find a lot of different animations that you can play with and use in your code. In this case, we're going to use the basic scale up animation. It opens up from the middle, and you can get the code right here on the right side. There we go. So we can simply copy this class, paste it in our code right here, and then one more time, copy the keyframes. There we go. In this case, we can remove this text right here. So now we have the keyframes, and we also have the scale up center animation. Again, this is something that we're not using right now, but we're going to use it for every single section later on. And the last thing we have to do for our app.css is to add some media queries. So we could say add media, screen, and this is going to be max-width set to 700 px. So this is going to be for our, let's say, middle-sized devices, like tablets, or bigger phones. In here, we simply want to say section underscore underscore padding is going to be set to padding for rem. And we're going to do the same thing with the margin. So I'm simply going to duplicate this below and rename this to margin. But it's always going to be for rem. It's not going to be for 6 as before. It's going to be just set to 4. That way it looks better with devices with max width of 700. Now we can copy this entire thing, paste it below one more time, and this is going to be for mobile devices. So max width 550 pixels. In this case, we're simply going to set this to 4 rem and then 2 rem on the horizontal axis. And that's going to be it for our app.css. I know we haven't seen a lot of these changes we've created, but again, these are the styles that we're going to use throughout our entire application. But with that said, now we are ready to start creating our navigation bar. We have our gradient, we have everything we need. Let's go ahead and start with our navigation bar. We are inside of the app.js, and now we can simply use the control click to quickly move to the navigation bar component, and we can start implementing it right here. Before we start implementing the code, we can import a few icons. So we can say import ri menu 3 line, as well as the ri React icons close line. And this is coming from react-icons/ri. Now inside of here, we can have a div, and this div is going to have a class name. That class name is going to be equal to GPT3 underscore underscore navbar. Inside of that div, we're going to have one more div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 underscore underscore navbar dash links. And you can notice that there is something specific with how we name our class names. We're using a specific CSS naming convention called BEM. Let me type that right here. That is BEM, and it stands for Block Element Modifier. So if you want to read more about BEM and use it yourself on the future projects, it's going to be linked below. But again, it's not crucial for you to fully understand BEM to keep watching this video. So let's keep it going. And soon enough, I'm going to put the browser and the editor side by side so that we can see the changes in real time. But let's quickly finish up this part of the navigation bar. Inside of this div, we're going to have one final div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 underscore underscore navbar dash links underscore logo. Inside of there, we're going to have an image like this, a self-closing tag, and that image is going to have a source set to logo. We can also add the alternative tag, which is going to say logo. Now, as you can notice, we don't have access to our logo image. So now this might be the best time to import all of our assets. We can do that in a few ways. For example, by manually selecting each specific image and then going to export right here on Figma. As you can see right here, if you click export, you're gonna get that one specific image. So if you're creating future sites for yourself, following a Figma design, then this is the best way to do it. The second way is to click right here and then click export and get all of the specific illustrations. But in this case, since you're following this video, to make things simpler for you, down below, you can simply find a link to download all of the assets we'll be using in this project. Then, once you download those assets, you'll be able to create a new folder in the source folder called assets. And then there, you'll be able to simply drag and drop all of the assets that we're gonna use. We're gonna use a few images for our blogs, also the links to specific companies, the AI image, but in this case, we need our logo. So just download all of the files below and you'll be able to continue following along with the video. With that said, now we can import that logo by saying import logo from // assets and then logo .svg. Great. Let's go ahead and see how does this look like in our browser. And there we go. You can see that we have our logo right here on the top left, but of course we still haven't added all of the classes for our navigation bar. And that's going to be our next step. So now we can put side by side the browser and the editor so that we can see in real time what changes are we making. There we go. I've put the editor and the browser side by side. You can do the same thing on your device, and then we can go ahead and start implementing those class names to make our navigation bar and header look great. We've written 3 of these classes, so we can go ahead and go to the navbar.css and implement them. Let's start with .gpt3 _ navbar. Our navigation bar is going to be of a display is set to flex. It's also going to have the justify content space between and align items center. Finally, let's give it some padding. Padding 2 rem on top and bottom and 6 rem on left and right. If we save it, this immediately made it look so much better. Now let's style the links. We can say .gpt3 _ navbar -links. In here, we're going to give it a flex 1. We're also going to say display flex. Justify -content is going to be set to flex start. And finally, the align items is going to be set to center. We cannot see any changes yet because we haven't added the links, but we can do something for the logo. .gpt3 _ navbar -links _ logo. And right here, we can give it a margin right of 2 rem. We can also modify the image width and height by saying .gpt3. We can basically copy what we have, but we're going to target the image inside of this specific div. And we can give it a width of, let's do 62 pixels, as well as the height equal to 16 pixels. That made it a lot smaller. And you might be wondering, where did I get those values from? So let's just compare the design with what we have right now. There we go. If you click on it, you'll be able to inspect it. And right here, you can see, if we want to be precise, this is going to be 6256 and it's going to be 1602. So you really want to be precise with those values because we're going to be getting them from the Figma file itself. Great. With that said, we can continue adding the navigation links to our navigation bar. So let's go back to the nav bar. And now below this image, we want to add a div. This div is going to have a class name equal to gpt3 _ navbar -links _ container. Inside of there, we're going to have a paragraph. And inside of that paragraph, we're going to have an anchor tag. An anchor tag, the first one at least, is going to point to hash or pound home. And it's simply going to say home. Now we can duplicate this 4 more times. And the second one is going to say, what is GPT-3? Then the third one is going to say open AI. And again, I'm simply looking at what we have on the design right here. There we go. What is GPT-3, OpenAI, case studies, and library. So let's add case studies. And the last thing is going to be the library. Now we can modify the links. So the second one is going to point to what or W GPT-3. The OpenAI can simply point to possibility. Then we're going to have our features. And the last one is going to be blog. Great. Let's save it. And inside of our React app, as soon as you reload, you should be able to see the links right here. But they're not that visible because they're written in black with small letters here. So let's go ahead and add the classes that are going to fix that. Let's start by going to navbar CSS. And right here, after we modify the image, we can say .gpt3 _ navbar -links underscore container, and we're simply going to give it a display is equal to flex, as well as the flex direction is set to row. It's set to row by default, but it's just good to know that we're doing that here as well. Then we can do one more class, .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash sign. This is going to be for our sign in button. So in here, we can say display is set to flex, justify content is set to flex end, and finally align items is set to center. Below that, we're going to say .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash links underscore container. I have a typo here. And then we want to target every p tag inside of that container. But we're going to add a comma and say .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash sign, also target a p inside of there. And the final thing is .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash menu underscore container p. And for all of these, we're going to change the color to hash FFF. This is the basic white color. As you can see, we can now see our links just a bit better. But let's change the font family to be equal to var dash dash font dash family. There we go. This is immediately looking so much better. We're using a variable for our font family that we created inside of our index CSS. There we go, manrobe. So let's go further. We want to set the font weight to be equal to 500. That made it just a bit bolder. And font size to be equal to 18 pixels. That made it a bit bigger. We can give it a line height to be set to 25 pixels. And we can say text-transform to capitalize. Finally, we're going to give them a margin 0 on top and bottom and 1 rem on left and right, and cursor set to pointer. Now, if we save that, you can see they got some margin and we can actually hover over them, and this is already starting to look so much better. But now you might be wondering, where am I getting these properties from? Well, let me show you. If we go back to the design, and if I double click a specific property, go to inspect, and there we go. We have the widths, the heights, left and top, but in here they're positioned absolute. The only things we want to get are these. There we go. This might not be that big to see, but I'm going to copy and paste it here. And you're going to notice that this is basically the same as what we have. Font family, font style, font weight, font size, and line height, and also the color. So you can technically go and copy most of the styles for every single property. That's the best thing about creating a website from an already done design. And usually we're going to do that in the future. We're going to notice some specific element, go to inspect, and then simply copy and paste some of the styles. But with that said, let's go back and let's see what else do we have to add in here. I think we've covered everything we have so far. Now we have to add a few more things to the JSX. Below our div right here, we want to add another div. And this div is going to have a class name, GPT3 underscore underscore navbar dash sign. Inside of there, we can have a p tag that's going to say sign in. And below that, we can have a button. And that button is going to be, of course, of a type is equal to button. And it's simply going to say sign up. If we save that, you can now see this sign in and sign up button. Now, if we compare that with the design, we can go ahead and move a bit more to the right. You can see there's the sign in button and the sign up button. So this button, of course, has to be styled. So let's do that right away. We can go to our navbar CSS, and right here, we can add the .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash sign button. And also later on, we're going to have the .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash menu underscore container, and then the button inside of there as well. So how are we going to know the classes? Well, double click the specific property, and there we go. You can see that we have our border radius, background, and also some width and height properties. So let's try simply copying that and see if we're gonna get any good results. I'll paste it here and simply save this code, and let's see. Inside of our application, this doesn't look that bad, but it's not perfect. So sometimes you'll have to take the original design and then modify it to fit your needs. In this case, we don't want to have the set in stone width and height. Rather, we can handle that with padding. So we can say padding 0.5 rem and then 1 rem on left and right. If we save that, we're going to notice it looks just a bit different. We're also going to add the color set to FFF to be white. There we go. We already have the background right here. We also want to change the font family, and we already know how to do that. We can simply use this var right here. Great, it's already getting its shape. Then we can set the font dash weight to be equal to 500. There we go. But I'm wondering, are these styles actually right here? But we missed them. And they are. You can see, you can get the styles for the button itself, but then you can go inside and get the styles for this specific property. So we can basically copy this, and I'm going to paste that right here. You can notice we already set the font family, so we can delete that. Font weight we've set. Font style normal is done by default. Then we're going to have the font size and the line height. We don't need the left and top in this case. The color is already set, and the border radius is right here. Let's go ahead and check it out. Our button is already looking much better. Let's go ahead and also set the border to be set to none, because you can notice we have this little border here, and also the outline to be set to none. Let's see if this fixes it. It does. It's already looking so much better. We're going to also set the cursor to pointer like this, and that's going to be it. It doesn't look exactly the same as it does here, but if you want it to look the same, we can simply modify this padding right here. Let's make that 1, and let's make this 2. There we go. But you can see that messes up with our design, so we can decide to add some personal touch to this design and make it look like this. So far what you could have learned is that implementing something from the design is copying most of the properties and then modifying it to make it more responsive and to fit your specific needs. Great. What else do we have to do with our navigation bar? Well, of course, we have to implement the mobile version. Unfortunately for the design, we only have the web version, but don't worry about that. We can implement the mobile responsiveness ourselves. To add a mobile menu, we can go just below this div for the sign in and the sign up, and we're going to create one more div with a class name equal to GPT3 _ navbar dash menu. Inside of there, we want to use some dynamic state. So let's import use state. Use state, that's going to be from React. Right here, we can use that use state hook by saying const. Right here, we can say const toggle menu and set toggle menu. So the first thing is the variable that's going to let us know, are we currently showing the menu, the mobile menu or not? And with the second one, it's a function that is going to allow us to change that variable. That is going to be equal to the use state, and at the start, it's going to be set to false. So now, right here, we can say if toggle menu, like this, toggle menu. In that case, we can show a specific icon, the icon to close the menu, right? If it's currently open. So we can say ri close line is equal to a self-closing tag, and there we can give it a color equal to FFF, which is white. We can set the size to be equal to 27, and then we want to do something on click. More specifically, on click, we have a callback function, and the only thing we want to do is set the toggle menu to be equal to, in this case, false. And then we want to have an else. So what do we do if it is not currently open? Then we can duplicate this line. We're just going to have a colon. The icon is not going to be close line. Rather, it's going to be the RI menu 3 line. And we're going to set it to true. Now, if we save that, we should be able to see that if we go to inspect and then mobile. There we go. Right now, we cannot seem to see it here, and that's most likely because we haven't added the navbar menu class. But before we do that, let's just finish up adding our mobile menu. So below that, we want to say if the menu is toggled. So if toggle menu and. That means only if this variable is true, only then render what is coming. And what's coming is going to be a div. We also need to close that div. And that div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ navbar dash menu _ container. And it's going to have one more class called scale up. And then dash center. So scale up center. That's the class we've created before, which is going to give it just a bit of animation. Now inside of there, we want to have one more div. This div is going to have a class name set to GPT3 __ navbar dash menu _ container dash links. And inside of there, we want to have the same links we've had above. So I'm simply going to copy them right here. Or in React fashion, we can create a new variable that we can then reuse. So just above the navbar, we can create a new functional component called menu. And that's going to be an arrow function that's going to instantly return this specific menu. But of course, we have to wrap it with a React fragment. So right here, that looks like this. There we go. And now we can reuse this menu 2 times. That's what's good about using React. You don't have to write this code multiple times. In this case, you can simply call this component right inside of here, copy it, and then we can use it inside of here as well. Let's see if our desktop still looks good. There we go. This looks fine to me. Of course, if we increase it a bit, that's good. And now on mobile devices, let's check that out. Let's go for iPhone X. Right now, it doesn't look that good, but of course, we still have to provide the mobile responsive classes. And below this menu, we're going to have one more thing, and that's going to be similar to the sign in and the sign up. So we can just paste it right here, but we're going to change some class names right here. This is not going to be navbar sign. In this case, we can do something like GPT3 __ navbar dash menu _ container dash links dash sign. Great. So now let's save this and let's implement the classes for everything we've just done. Of course, we have to start with the menu by saying .gpt3 __ navbar dash menu. It's going to have a margin dash left set to 1 rem, and it's going to have a display set to none and position set to relative. Again, now you cannot see it, but we're going to make it seen soon enough. Then we can say .gpt3 __ navbar dash menu svg. There we want to give a cursor set to pointer. And now we come to the main part. Right here, .gpt3 __ navbar dash menu _ container. It's going to have a display set to flex. It's also going to have a justify dash content set to flex dash end. Then align items also set to flex dash end. And finally, flex direction is going to be set to column. We cannot yet see those changes because we're still looking at the same desktop navigation bar, but we'll be able to see them soon enough. Let's also add the text dash align to be equal to end. Let's also add a background. So let's say background is going to be equal to var, and that's going to be dash dash color dash footer. Of course, we still cannot see anything. Then we're going to give it a padding of 2 rem. Let's give it a position of absolute. Also top of 40 pixels and right equal to 0. So it's going to appear on the right side. Then we're going to give it a margin dash top to 1 rem. Also the min dash width of 210 pixels. Border dash radius of 5 pixels. In here I misspelled that, so let's fix this. And finally, we're going to give it a box dash shadow to 0, 0, 5, RGBA 0, 0, 0, and then 0.2 to make it just a bit darker. And this is going to be it for our navbar menu container. Now we have to actually show it using media queries. Before we do that, let me just quickly add fixes for the paragraphs inside of that menu. That's going to be .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash menu underscore container and then the p tag. We simply want to give it a margin, 1 rem on top and bottom and 0 on left and right. And finally for the sign in button, .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash menu underscore container dash links and then dash sign. In here, we simply want to say a display is equal to none. Great. Now we can jump to our media queries to stop showing the desktop menu and start showing the mobile one we just created. So let's start with the larger devices first, because this is going to be responsive on desktop and tablet and mobile devices. Let's start with our tablet, add media, screen, and max dash width is set to 1050 pixels. In here, we can say .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash links underscore container, and we simply want to hide it by saying display is equal to none. There we go. Now you can see we immediately lost that menu. Then we also want to say .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash menu, and in here we want to set a display to flex. That's actually going to show it. There we go. You can see our menu button right here. And if we click it, it actually opens it up with that nice scale up animation. Great. Now this is it for the tablet devices, let's say, but now we can implement everything for the max width of 700 pixels. So I'm going to copy this media query, change this to 700 right here. And the only thing we want to do here is change the navbar. So we can say .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar. We're going to give it a padding of 2 rem on top and bottom and 4 rem on left and right. There we go. That basically pushed it up a bit and it's looking more centered. And now finally on the smallest of devices, on mobile devices, that's going to be up to 550 pixels. We want to set the navbar to be simply padding 2 rem. There we go. We also want to remove these buttons because there isn't enough space for them here, the sign in and the side up. So we can say .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash sign, and that's going to be display is set to none. This is looking so much better. Now we have a clean navigation bar. Then we're going to also say .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash menu underscore container, and we're going to say top is 20 pixels. There we go. Now if we click here, you'll notice that it appears correctly as it should. And then finally, the last thing is going to be .gpt3 underscore underscore navbar dash menu underscore container dash links dash sign is going to be display dash block. This is going to make the sign in and the sign up buttons appear right here because they are no longer on the main navigation bar. Now, if we extend this to something like a tablet, or let's try a larger mobile device. Okay, let's try to go to Surface Duo. This is still in a mobile size. Let's do iPad. There we go. On iPad, there's enough space to show the sign in and the sign up and the menu on the right side. But if we go to something like a laptop, there we go. Even on smaller laptops, there isn't enough space to show everything. But if we go on a larger laptop, you can see now this looks great. We have the navigation bar on the left side, sign in and the sign up on the right side. But as soon as we go to the mobile size, we have this nice menu that pops up with the animation. And with that said, our navigation bar is done. This is the first component on our list. Now, if we go to the desktop version, you'll notice that we have to implement the header. And that's going to be our next task. Let's do that right away. So let's focus on our header. To do that, we can close the navigation bar and then we can control click the header component. We already have it created and we also have the CSS. Now is the time that we code out the JSX and the CSS for the header component. And to know exactly what that header component is going to be, let's open up our Figma design. Our header is going to be this entire main part. Let's build something amazing with GPT-3 OpenAI, this image right here, description, and the email login. Also, the icons from all the people that are using this platform. So let's create this entire part, starting with, of course, the div that covers everything, and then with this h1. So let's go back to our React application and let's start implementing our div. Our div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ header, and then space section __ padding, because we want to add some padding under that section. And we're also going to give it an ID equal to home so that we can scroll to that part using our navigation bar. Now inside of there, we're going to create one more div. This div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ header dash content. Inside of this div, we're going to create our h1. Our h1 is going to have a class name equal to gradient __ text. And inside of there, we can copy this text right here. So let's try right-clicking and then clicking copy. If we go back here, we can now simply paste it right here and remove some spaces. There we go. So let's save it and see how that is going to look like. There we go. This is already looking good. Now, before we go ahead and implement the class names, let's implement the description, this email right here, and the image. Then we can go ahead and add the classes or styles for everything. So below this h1, we're going to have a div. This div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ header dash content __ input. Now inside of there, we're going to have our input. This input is going to be a self-closing component of type equal to email. It's also going to have a placeholder that's going to say your email address. Finally, below that input, we can also add a button. And that button is going to be equal to a type button, and it's simply going to say get started. Let's save that. You can see this looks awful right now, but it's going to look so much better soon enough. Looks like we forgot to add this p tag above the input, so let's do that right away. Just below this h1, I'm going to add a p tag. Let's close it as well, and we won't need any class name here. We can simply copy the text from here by right-clicking it and then clicking copy, and we can paste it right here. If we save that, you should be able to see right now it's black, but it definitely is there. The last thing we have to add is going to be this div, where we say how many people are using our platform, and then the image itself. So just below this div, we can create one more div. This div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ header dash content __ people. Inside of there, we can put our image tag, which is going to be a self-closing tag like this. And we're going to add a source equal to people. Of course, this is the image that we have to import. So let's go ahead and do that right away. From assets, you can notice that in here, we should be able to have a people icon. There we go, people.png. So the only thing we have to do is simply say import, and that's going to be people from // assets people.png. I'm also going to duplicate this image because we're going to need one more, and that is going to be import AI from, and then in this case, that's going to be ai.png. I've also noticed in here, this is going to be people.png. There we go. Now we have the images we need. You can see our first one is right here. And let's add the alt tag that's going to say people. And below that image, we have to add one more paragraph. So let's say P, and let's copy this text right here. 1,600 people requested access. So let's go ahead and paste that right here, save it. And as you can see, our paragraph appeared right here. The last thing we have to add is going to be this big image on the top right side. So just below this div, we can create one final div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ header dash image. Right here, we can call that self-closing image tag, say that the source is equal to AI, and let's say alt tag is also going to be equal to AI. If we save that, our huge image is going to appear right here. Of course, using styles, we're going to make it a lot smaller, and we're going to position it to the top right of the screen. So now is the time that we implement the styles. Of course, to implement the styles, we can go to our header.css, and let's take a look. Let's start by adding the styles for our .gpt3 __ header. And we're simply going to make it a display is equal to flex, and by default, it's going to have a flex direction of row. So there we go, everything is going to appear in one row. Now let's do .gpt3 __ header dash content. Just to remind you, the header content is going to be the div that's going to contain everything inside of it. So right here, we can give it a flex is equal to 1, also a display equal to flex to make it its own flex container. Justify content is going to be set to center everything, as you can see like that. And then we're going to give it align dash items is equal to flex dash start. And finally, we're going to set the flex direction to be equal to column. There we go. Now every div is coming below one another. And finally, we're going to give it a margin right equal to 5 rem. Now let's style this h1. We can do that by saying GPT3 __ header dash content h1. Let's give it a font family equal to var -- font -- family. Just like that, we can immediately switch the font. Then we're going to give it a font weight equal to 800, like this, to make it just a bit bolder. But remember, we don't have to write all of this by hand. We can go to Figma, click right here, go to inspect, and then all of our styles should be right here. Of course, don't take these styles. This is just used to position it on this design, but we need the font specific styling. So I'm going to paste everything right here. Font family we're already using from our own variable, and font style is by default. Font weight is 800, and we can keep this. Great. So now if we save this and go back, that made it a lot bigger, and that's exactly how it should be. Now let's keep it going for the paragraph below. We can copy this entire thing, and it's just going to be P instead of H1. Let's see what styles do we need for our paragraph. We can just go in here, copy everything, and simply paste it in here, and then we can see if we need to modify anything. In this case, we can use the font family from a variable, although it's the same. We can leave this font style normal. Font weight is also going to be normal, of course. Font size is 20 pixels, line height 27 pixels, and the color is the color right here. But we also have this color saved in our variables, so we can say var -- color -- text. And finally, we can add margin dash top is going to be equal to 1.5 rem. Now, if we go to React app, save it, you can notice this is already looking so much better. Now that we've styled the header and the paragraph, let's style this ugly input and the button. So just below here, we can say .gpt3 underscore underscore header dash content underscore underscore input. Let's give it a width of 100%. Also, let's set the margin to be equal to 2 rem on top and bottom. Also, let's set the margin to be equal to 2 rem, 0, and then 1 rem. If we save that, you can notice that's going to set up the margin. And then finally, let's also set a display is equal to flex. And by default, flex direction is going to be set to row. Now we can style the input itself. So let's say .gpt3 underscore underscore header dash content underscore underscore input. And then we want to style the input inside of it. Let's go to the design and click this input right here. You can notice that we get the background and the border radius. So let's go ahead and take those. And then if we click on this inner text, we also get the font family, style, and everything else. So we're also going to take these. Now let's indent everything properly and let's see if we have to modify something. Right now, it's already looking just a bit better, but let's go ahead and add some of our own custom styles. Let's give it a flex is equal to 2. This is going to give it more width. Then we're going to set the width to be equal to 100%. Let's also give it a min height equal to 50 pixels. That's going to just extend it a bit. Font family is going to be manrope, so we can leave that here, but we're going to change it to use our own variable like this. The font style and font weight can be set to normal, but I don't think we even have to have that there because it's normal by default. You can notice there isn't any change. The font size can be 20 pixels. Line height can be 27 pixels. The background is going to be our own color, so we can say var, and then dash dash color dash footer. Of course, we need a semicolon at the end. And we're also going to give it a border. Border is going to be 2 pixels, solid, var dash dash color dash footer. There we go. This added that border, and we're going to give it a padding. Padding is going to be set to 0 and then 1 rem. There we go. And finally, we're going to give it outline equal to none. And we're going to set the color to be equal to FFF, which is going to be white. Now, if we save that and reload the page, you can notice that this is looking so much better. Great. Now it's time that we also style this input right here, because as you can see, this is now extending way too long. We have to have it just like this as it is on the design. So the next step we can do is style the button. I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and instead of the input now, we're going to style the button. For the button, we can again copy most of the styles. Let's first copy the outer styles for the button itself, right here. And then we can copy the inner styles for the text inside of it, just like this. And now we'll be able to notice if we have to change anything, or we can leave it as it is. As soon as we go back and save the page, you're gonna notice that this is still extending way too much. So let's see what changes do we have to make. First, I'm going to separate it from our own styles, and we're going to add flex 0.6. This is going to make the button take more space, as you can see. Then we're going to give it a width of 100% as well, like this. And I'm going to also set a min dash height to be equal to 50 pixels. Of course, we still cannot see what's happening. So let's see, why is our button still on the wrong side, and why is the text the other way around? It is highly likely that our image is to blame, because right now it is just so wide, so it takes a lot of space. For now, let's simply go back to our JSX and comment out the div containing our image. There we go. This already makes it look so much better. Now let's see what styles do we have to add to our header. The font family is going to be the same, but let's use our variable once again for good practices, like here. The font style, as we discussed, is set to normal by default. We can make it bold like this. Then the font size can be set to 20 pixels like it is here, and the line height can be 27 pixels. The background color is fine. The border radius is also fine. We don't need this transform matrix, and the color can stay FFF. We're also going to say cursor is going to be set to pointer, and also outline is going to be set to none to remove that ugly outline. Let's also give it some padding. Padding is going to be 0 on top and bottom and 1 rem on left and right. If we save that, this is already looking so much better. There still seems to be some kind of a border outside, so let's go ahead and inspect it. And right here, if I hover over it, let's see, do we have some kind of a border around this button? Border color, border style. Let's simply try setting the border to be equal to none. And that gets rid of it. Great. As you can see, this button is looking great, but it seems like the borders are cut off. As you can see, this is how it should look like, and this is how it looks like right here. So let's fix that right away. We need to fix this border radius on this input and on the button as well. So on the input, we're going to do something like this. Border dash top dash right dash radius is going to be equal to 5 pixels. We're going to duplicate this, and let's say border dash bottom dash right dash radius is going to be 5 pixels as well. Now this is not all that noticeable, but now we can copy this, remove the border radius from the button, and paste it right here. And now in here, we can just paste this and save it. There we go. Now the edges on top right and bottom right are rounded. I zoomed it out, and as you can see, this is looking so much better. We have our input, we have our get started, and it's looking the same as it is on the design. But of course, one of the most important things about this header is going to be this large image. So let's implement this div with people at the bottom, and then we're going to focus on the image itself. Our people div is already looking fine. We just have to add some small flex modifications. So let's say .gpt3 underscore underscore header dash content underscore underscore people. We can set the width to be equal to 100%. Then we can set the display to be equal to flex. And this is immediately going to make the text appear alongside the images. Then we can say justify content is going to be set to flex dash start. And then finally, we can align the items to the center. This is going to make the images have normal height. Finally, let's set the margin dash top to be equal to 2 rem. There we go. Now let's style the images and the text separately. I'm going to copy this, paste it below, and we're going to add the styles for GPT-3 header content underscore underscore people. But now let's edit the image itself. The only thing we want to do about the image is change the width and the height. So let's go here. Let's target this div where all of these images are. That's going to be this group of the elements right here. And we can basically copy the width and the height. Let's paste that here, save it, and there we go. The images are now of a proper height. Now let's change the paragraph. So we can basically copy this thing one more time, but this time we're simply going to say P right here. Again, for this we can mostly copy the styles by clicking on the text and then copying all of these values. I'm going to paste them here, and now let's see what do we have to modify. First of all, we're going to add margin left right here. Margin dash left is going to be 1 rem. That's going to push the text a bit above. Then the font family is going to be the one we already have, manrope. But again, we're going to use good practices, so we're going to use the var to get the font from there. The font style is normal. Font weight can be 500, font size 12, line height 38. Color is going to be white, and then the only thing we need is text dash align is going to be set to center. As you can see, everything seems great, but our text is just a bit below our images. So let's inspect that. And if we disable the mobile mode, we should be able to notice if we inspect this paragraph, that it has some margins. So let's set all of these margins to 0 besides the left one. That's going to be 0, 0, 0 for top, right, bottom, and then the left one is going to be 1 rem. So we can simply say margin right here. If we save that, this now centered everything and this is looking great. Finally, now is the time that we bring back our image. So let's go to header.jsx. Let's uncomment this. Of course, it's going to look bad at the moment, but let's add the styles. We can do so by saying .gpt3 __ header dash image. Let's say flex is going to be set to 1. If we save that, nothing's going to happen yet, but then we're going to make this a display flex of its own, and we're going to say justify dash content is going to be set to center, and also align dash items is going to be set to center. By itself right now, this is not making any changes, but now let's change the size of this image by copying this and then editing the styles for the image itself. The width is going to be set to 100%, and also the height is going to be set to 100%. If we save this, you can see the image is now looking just a bit better. If we reset the zoom on our side, this is looking good. And if we expand this to a normal Full HD window, the image should be on the right side, but it is still not. So there's something that we have to do about that. But first, let's add the media queries so that this works on all kinds of devices. First, let's create the add media screen, and max dash width is set to 1050 pixels. In here, we can modify the header .gpt3 __ header, and we're going to set the flex direction to be equal to column. Now let's open up our inspect tools, and let's see, let's go over to the 1050 pixels. This seems about it. So now we're working on this specific screen size. We're also going to say .gpt3 __ header dash content, and we're going to modify the margin to be 0, 0, and then 3 rem. Of course, we don't need the colon here. There we go. Now this is looking fine on our devices up to 1050 pixels. Let's see what we can do for the devices up to 650 pixels. So these are going to be, let's say, larger phones or tablets. I can copy this entire thing, paste it below, change the max width to 650 pixels. And in this case, we're going to modify not the header, but the H1 inside of the header. We can give it a font dash size to be equal to 48 pixels. There we go. And then we're going to give it a line dash height equal to 60 pixels. I don't see the changes yet, so let's see if we need to maybe move it like this. There we go. I can see the changes now. The header is actually smaller. Now we're going to modify the p tag inside of the header as well. So I'm going to simply paste this here, .gpt3 header, and then p tag inside of it. We're going to set the font size to be equal to 16 pixels to make it a bit smaller, and also change the line height to be equal to 24 pixels. There we go. Everything fits better on the screen right now. We're also going to change the .gpt3 __ header dash content __ people. We can simply set that to be flex direction is equal to column. Now this is going to appear below the images. Of course, we can copy this, paste it below, and we can change the p tag inside of that div. We can simply say something like margin is going to be set to 0. There we go. Now it is centered. And finally, we want to change the input and the button. So we can say .gpt3 __ header dash content __ input. And then the input, we're going to add a comma, duplicate this line, and then change the button as well. The only thing we're going to do here is change the font size to be equal to 16 pixels, and then the line height to be equal to 24 pixels. If we save that, this is now going to appear so much more normal and not too large. There we go. And finally, let's make this work with smallest of devices, which are going to be mobile phones like this. I can even open the normal iPhone X right here. So let's see, what do we have to change? I'm going to copy this at media, paste it below, and this is going to be for devices up to 490 pixels. Inside of here, we're again going to modify the header and the p tag. So let's copy this, paste it below, and we're going to make this just a bit smaller, 36 pixels for the font size and 48 pixels for the line height. There we go. And then change the p tag, 14 pixels for the font size, and we can leave it at 24 pixels for the line height. Finally, we can also modify the input and the button right here. This is going to be 12 pixels for the font size and let's say 16 pixels for the line height. There we go. Now everything seems much more streamlined and better. Usually everything is too large on desktop devices, but now it's looking good for mobile devices as well. Now the last thing we have to do is see what's up with our image. I think it is still showing below the content where it should show on the right side of the content on desktop devices. So let's go ahead and put this right here and see if it messed up some of our styling. This is going to be the main div right here. The main div is going to be flex. It's going to be center, flex start, and column. It's going to have some margin right. This seems all right to me. And it looks like that our issue is not actually in the styles. It's inside of the header.jsx. This header content should cover only the content parts, meaning H1, P, then the input and the button, and finally the 1600 people. But this div should be below that content div right here. So let's indent that properly and put it just below this div. Now, if we save that, you're gonna notice that the image appears on the right side. If we now expand this like this and reset the size, you can notice that this is looking great. Let's test it on mobile devices as well. So we can go to inspect. On mobile, it's looking great. We have this let's build something amazing with GPT-3 OpenAI. Let's see how does it look like on tablets. Looking great as well. What about laptops? Looking great. And then finally on 4K devices, it's a bit stretched, but it's still looking good. Of course, what we're wondering is going to be mainly the mobile, then the tablet, something like iPad Pro or iPad, and then finally the normal 1920 by 1080 device. Great, it's looking perfect. As you can see, our header is now done, and this is already looking so much better. Creating this header wasn't as hard as creating the navigation bar and the entire project structure. But now you can believe me. Now that we have the project structure done, creating all of the other sections is going to be so much simpler. We have the navigation bar done, fully responsive. Also, the header part is now done, fully responsive as well. And now we are ready to create all of the remaining sections. Let's go ahead and do that right now. The next section on our list are going to be the brands. It's going to be a really simple component, as you can see right here. So let's go back to our React application and let's expand our code. The next component is going to be implemented just below our header. So let's close this file, and let's go into the brand component. In this file, we're going to import a few images. So to simplify the process, let's create a new file called imports.js. This is going to be a helper file to import all of the images into here, and then we'll be able to import them in one line in our brand component. So we're going to need import Google from assets/google.png. Now I'm going to duplicate this 4 more times. The second one on our list is going to be Slack. Then we're going to have the Atlassian. Then we're going to have the Dropbox right here. And finally, the last one on our list is going to be Shopify. The only thing we have to do now is say export. And now we can export all of them at once by pasting them here and then adding commas at the end of each one. There we go. The only thing this did is now we can go into the brand.jsx and we can import all of them like this. Import in curly braces. That's going to be Google, Slack, Atlassian, Dropbox, and Shopify. All of these are coming from /imports. Great. We can put that here and we are ready to use all of these images. First, let's give a class name to our div right here. That's going to be GPT3 __ brand and then section __ padding. Make sure to have a space in between of those two classes. Now let's create a new div for each one of our images. It's going to look like this. That's going to be a div, and inside of there, it's going to have the image tag. That image is going to have the source equal to Google, and it's going to have the alt tag equal to Google again. The only thing we have to do right now is duplicate this 4 more times. 2, 3, 4. And finally, we need to change this. So it's going to say Slack here. Slack, this is going to be Atlassian, or however you pronounce that. And then we're going to have Dropbox right here. And finally, that's going to be Shopify. Now, if we save that, it's not going to look the best because we are not yet styling them. So let's open up our brand.css and let's style our only div that we have in this file. That's going to be .gpt3 __ brand. Let's set the display to be equal to flex to make them all appear in the row. We're going to have the flex wrap equal to wrap, and then justify content equal to center, and finally align -items equal to center. Now let's style each specific div. We can say .gpt3 __ brand, then div. Let's give it a flex is equal to 1, like this. What we can also do is set the max -width to be equal to 150 pixels. Min -width is going to be set to 120 pixels, like this. And let's give it a margin equal to 1 rem. This is already looking so much better. Let's just give it a display is equal to flex, and then justify content is equal to center. And finally, align -items is equal to center as well. Now this is going to look great. Of course, if we now expand this a bit, you'll notice that they all fit in the same row. And with that, we're finished with our brands component. Great. This was much simpler than you might have anticipated. So let's now expand this properly so we can see our code, and let's see what is going to be the next component on our list. As you can see, it's great that we already have the entire project structure because now we're just entering each and every component and then coding them out. The next part is going to be this div that you can see right here. And as you can see, it looks extremely custom, meaning that there are going to be a lot of styles to make this possible. So what is GPT-3? Let's go ahead and code that out. We can start by entering this specific component. And inside of there, let's start by editing our first div. Our div is going to have a class name equal to GPT-3 __ what GPT-3, and then space section __ margin. We're also going to give it an ID equal to WGPT3. That is going to allow us to scroll to that once we click here, and then what is GPT-3. Now inside of that div, we're going to have one more div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to GPT-3 __ what GPT-3, and then -feature. Inside of there, we want to render the feature component, and that feature is going to be basically this. What is GPT-3? As you can notice, it has a heading and it has this little thing on the top. The reason why we're making this into a separate component is because, as you can see, it's used here, here as well, and then it's used in a few other places as well. So in this case, we're going to call the feature component that we've created before. One trick to immediately import this component is to type it out and press Control space. It's going to immediately auto import from components. Great. Now, if we go back to our React application and reload, this is not going to look like something. We can just see the feature here, but everything is black and we need some styles. But before we do that, let's just add one more div inside of here. This div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 underscore underscore what GPT3 and then dash heading. Inside of there, we can have an h1, and this h1 is going to have a class name equal to gradient dash text. Inside of there, we can simply copy what we have in here. That's going to be the possibilities are beyond your imagination. Let's paste it here. And we also need a paragraph, which is going to be here, explore the library. So just below this h1, we're simply going to have a p tag and simply say explore the library. Again, this is still going to look like nothing because it's black on black, so we cannot see it. The last thing we have to do is a div that's going to contain all of these three features: chatbots, knowledge, and education. So let's create one final div here. That's going to be a class name equal to GPT3 underscore underscore what GPT3 dash container. Inside of there, we can call our feature component like this. But of course, we need to pass different things into that component. We haven't yet created it, so we don't know what to pass. So let's simply leave it like this for now. Now we're going to add these styles, and then later on, we're going to focus on implementing our feature component. So let's open up the whatGPT3.css, and let's go ahead and implement the styles. Inside of here, we're again going to use a gradient similar to the one we've used before, and that gradient has also been generated automatically by the tool we used before. In this case, just to simplify the process so we don't have to create a gradient one more time, I'm simply going to paste it here. Again, this is not something new. This is just what we immediately get from that platform that's going to give us all the gradients. The link to this whatGPT3.css is going to be down in the description, so you can just go ahead and copy this first class. As soon as you save that, you'll notice that this already seems just a bit more similar to what we should have at the end. So now let's add our second class, which is going to be .gpt3 underscore underscore what GPT3 dash feature. Inside of here, we're simply going to make this a display is equal to flex. Now, remember that we said that we're going to use the feature component, but you can notice that this feature at the top is going to be just a bit different from the features below. This one is going to have a text on the right side, and this one is going to have text on the bottom. So let's implement different styles for each one of these components. We can do that by saying .gpt3 underscore underscore what GPT3 dash feature, and then also .gpt3 underscore underscore features dash container underscore underscore feature. Inside of here, we're simply going to set the margin to be equal to 0. Now we can copy this entire line and paste it below. Inside of here, we're going to modify the same thing at the start, but then we are going to go into the feature, and that's going to be dash text, because this one is going to have the text. So let's add the max dash width to be equal to 700 pixels. Again, no changes yet, but as soon as we implement the feature component, this is going to be visible. Now let's change this heading right here by saying .gpt3 underscore underscore what GPT3 dash heading. Let's give it a display is equal to flex. We could also do flex direction is equal to row. Let's also do justify dash content is equal to space dash between, like this. And then finally, let's say align dash items is equal to center. Finally, we're going to give it margin is equal to 4 rem, 0, and then 2 rem. There we go. Now we can see that the Explore the library came to the right side, and we have our text right here. Now for the text itself, we can copy this heading, paste it below, and we just want to go inside of the h1 tag. As it usually is with the headings, we can go back to our design, simply click right here, and then copy these styles. Once I've copied them, I'm simply going to paste them right here. Let's see, what do we have? Font size is going to be equal to 34 pixels. line height is going to be 45. Then we can set the font weight to 800. And let's also add the max dash width equal to 510 pixels. Font family is going to be manrope, but we can use that variable that we have, font family, and that's going to be it. We don't need the font style. As soon as we change that, the text is now looking a lot more like this one, but we're missing the gradient. Where is it? Let's go to our What GPT-3 JSX and let's see, gradient dash text right here on the H1. This here is my bad. This was supposed to be gradient underscore underscore text because text is the element under the gradient. As soon as you save that, you can see that now we have this nice gradient on this text. This was the class name we implemented in the app.css. So right here, we should be able to see it. There we go, gradient text. So now let's go back to action by going to whatgpt3.css. Let's continue by changing this paragraph right here. We can do that by basically copying this title, pasting it below, and now we want to modify the p tag inside of the heading. Again, we can go here, click explore the library, and copy most of the styles. We can simply paste them here. This is immediately looking a lot better, but let's see if we have to make some modifications. The font family is again going to be the same one, but from a variable. We don't need the font style. Font weight 500, font size 16, line height 30, and then the color is going to be set to our own variable, which is going to be var, and that's going to be dash dash color dash subtext. And finally, we're going to make that cursor is equal to pointer to make it appear like a clickable thing. There we go. This is already looking a lot more similar to what the design says. Finally, let's modify the container for our features, .gpt3 underscore underscore what GPT3 dash container. Inside of here, we can set the display to be equal to flex. Flex wrap is going to be set to wrap. And then finally, flex dash direction is going to be set to row. Let's also give it a margin dash top is equal to rem. There we go. Now features are coming one by one. Now we're going to add some more styling for the feature component, but this CSS is nothing special, is nothing we haven't seen before, but it is taking a lot of time to write it down. So as I've done with this gradient right here, I'm going to give you access to this few lines of CSS as well. You can simply copy and paste them right here into whatgpt3.css. That's going to allow us to more quickly start working on the feature component itself. So one more time, the entire whatgpt3.css is going to be down in the description in a GitHub gist, so just go ahead and copy and paste it right here. And now we are ready to start working on the feature component. Right now, it's an empty component that simply says feature, and that's it. It's not accepting any props, it's not doing any logic, and it's not showing any JSX besides the div with a feature inside of it. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's add some class names. The first one is going to be class name is equal to GPT3 underscore underscore features dash container underscore underscore feature. Inside of there, we're going to have one more div. This div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 underscore underscore features dash container underscore underscore feature dash. Now, right here, we're going to have one empty div before the title to give it some space. And then we're going to have an H1 that simply says title. Below this div, we're going to have one more div. And this div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 underscore underscore features dash container underscore feature dash text. Right here, we can simply render out the text. But as you can notice, the title and the text are undefined. They don't exist. So we're simply going to retrieve them through props. Right here, we can say that our feature component accepts title and text as props. And now we can go ahead and pass them right inside of here. So let's see, what text do we have to pass? The title for the first one is going to be what is GPT-3. So we can say title is equal to what is GPT-3. Then we can copy the text. Right here, we can say text is equal to, and then simply paste it right here as well. And then we can repeat the process for all of the following features. In here, that's going to be title is equal to chatbots. We can copy the text right here. So we can say text is equal to, and then paste it right here. We're going to repeat the process for the knowledge. So title is equal to, or rather knowledge base. And then we're going to copy the text as well. Right here, text is going to be equal to this. And finally, the last thing we have to do is add the title equal to education. And then this here is going to be the text. There we go. Now, if we save that and go back to our application, this is already looking so much better. You can see what is GPT-3 that is similar to this thing right here, but of course we don't have any styles for those components yet. So let's go into our feature and let's see what styles do we have to add to our feature.css to make this look as it does on the design. First things first, let's say .gpt3 __ features -container __ feature itself. This is going to have a width of 100%. It's going to have a display is equal to flex, justify content is equal to space dash between, and then align dash items is equal to flex dash start, and finally flex dash direction is equal to row. We can also give it margin right here to 1 rem. There we go. Right now it's not looking that good, but at least it's getting into shape of how it needs to look like. Now let's change the title. We can do that by copying this entire thing and saying .gpt3 feature container feature and then dash title. In here, we can give it a flex is equal to 1. Then we can give it a max dash width is equal to 180 pixels. And finally, margin dash right is going to be set to 2 rem. Let me spell this correctly. And if we save that, this is already looking just a bit better. I'm going to copy this line one more time, paste it below, and now we want to modify the H1 itself. So right here, we're going to say H1, and you know the drill with H1s. We can simply come here and copy all of the styles. So let's copy them, paste them here, and let's see what do we have to change. This is going to be var -- font - family. Then font style we don't need. Font weight is 800. Font size can be set to 24, but I found it to work better with 18 pixels, and line height is going to be 24 pixels. Great. Letter spacing we can leave, and color is going to be white. So now let's paste this out and save it. As you can see, our titles are now looking just a bit better. Now we can modify this div inside of the feature. This div is actually going to be this line that you can see right here. So how can we do that? Let's go here. Let's copy this entire thing again. Now it's not going to be H1, it's going to be a div inside of that container. So we can say width is 38 pixels. Or you know what? Let's go to the design. Let's click it. And let's try to simply copy what we have right here. In this case, let's copy everything. As we said, we don't need to worry about position. The width and the height are fine. The top and the left we don't need. And we can keep the background right here. But we already have the background under our variables. So we can say var -- gradient -bar. We're going to also add some box shadow to be equal to 0, 4 pixels, 4 pixels, RGBA, 0, 0, 0, 0.25. And finally, let's give it a margin -bottom equal to 0.25 rem. If we save this, you can see right here, this is looking so much better already. Now let's modify the text. So I'm going to say .gpt3 __ features -container _ feature -text. We're going to set that to flex is equal to 2 to give it some more space. As you can see, now this is taking twice as much space as this title is because it is set to flex 2 and the title is flex 1. So right here, let's say max dash width is equal to 390 pixels, like this. And finally, let's say display is equal to flex. Now we can copy this, paste it below, and we want to modify the p tag inside of that. Again, as we usually do with texts, we can go ahead and copy this and paste it right here. The font family is again going to be coming from var, from our CSS variables. Font styles we don't need. Font weight is 500. Font size I found 14 to work better, and line height 24. And the color we already have under variables, var dash dash color dash text. Now let's space this out correctly, save it, and see it in the action. Great, this is already looking so much better. But the only thing I can notice is that the text still seems a bit black. It doesn't seem like it is on this image right here. So let's see if we have our variable written correctly. That's going to be var dash dash color dash text. Let's see it in our index.css styles. Color text appears to be right. This is that light bluish color. So let's go back to our feature and let's try bringing it back to what they had here, this color, without using a variable. If we save it and reload the page, it's still black. So it seems like something else is overriding it. Let's leave it like this for now to finish up the entire CSS for our feature component, and then we're going to figure out how to fix it. So the only thing left to do is to add some media queries. So add media, screen, and max dash width is equal to 550 pixels. Inside of here, we can say .gpt3 underscore underscore features dash container underscore underscore feature dash title. We simply want to change the h1 inside of that div to be equal to font dash size is equal to 14 pixels and line dash height is equal to 22 pixels. This is going to make the title a bit smaller on mobile devices. We want to copy this same thing, paste it here, and change the paragraph instead of h1 as well. Font size for the paragraph is going to be 12 pixels, line height is going to be 20. And then the last thing we want to change is .gpt3 underscore underscore features dash container underscore underscore feature, and then in here, margin 1 rem on top and bottom and 0 on left and right. Now let's see how does this look on mobile, and it's looking great. The last thing we have to do is of course change the color of this text. So let me see if I have some typos right here for the paragraph. That's going to be inside of our feature component, GPT-3 features dash container, and then underscore feature dash text. That part seems all right to me. This here is GPT-3 features container underscore underscore feature. That's also fine. And this one seems fine as well. So everything seems fine. Let's try to inspect this specific div. In here, we can see that this div is this feature text, meaning this one, and I can immediately notice it. I forgot to put this text inside of a p tag. So right here, if I just enter the p and close it right here, this should make all the difference. There we go. How much of a difference can one styled paragraph tag make? Apparently a lot. So now let's expand this to full HD to see our website in its full glory. We have our navigation bar. Then we have our great looking header, and then we have our brands, and now our brand new section with the what is GPT-3. We have our text here. The possibilities are beyond your imagination. And then we have all of these features here, which are basically just one single component that we're then reusing and passing the props to. Great. The next section on our list is going to be the future is now. So in here, you can see the full powers of React because we'll be reusing the component we created in the previous section right here in the next one as well. Great. So let's go ahead and start working on that right away. You already know the drill. To start implementing our next section, we can go to our React application, open up the code, and then go back to our app.js. Inside of here, we can notice that the name of the next component or section is called features. So to start implementing the features, let's give a class name to our first div right here. And the class name is going to be GPT3 underscore underscore features space section underscore underscore padding. And we're going to give it an ID equal to features so that we can scroll to it from our navigation bar. Inside of that div, we're going to have one more div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 underscore underscore features dash heading. Inside of there, we can have an H1. This H1 is going to have a class name equal to gradient underscore underscore text. There we go. And let's go to our design and let's simply copy this text and paste it right here. Great. Now, if you go back, you should immediately notice that we have our text right here. Then we can also add the p tag for our paragraph and then copy what they say right here, request early access. So if we go back, there we go. You can see it. It's black, but it is just below our heading. Now, finally, we need to loop over 4 of our new features with a different text right here. So what we can do is just below this div, create a new div with a class name equal to GPT3 underscore underscore features dash container. Now inside of there, we want to render 4 different components. But instead of simply doing this, calling the feature component and then calling it again and again and again, I'm going to show you one cool trick that you can do in React, and that is to create the features data array at the top. So const features data is equal to an array. Now in here, we can have a few different objects. The first one is going to have a title, and for that title, we can simply go ahead and copy this title right here and paste it. Great. Now we're also going to have a text here, so we can copy this text and paste it here. Now we can simply repeat the process for all of the 3 remaining features. I'm simply going to add a comma here and then duplicate these lines 3 more times. I'm going to leave the paragraphs as they are, but I'm going to change the titles. So right here, I'm going to paste our second title, copy and paste the third one, and finally copy and paste the 4th one as well. What we can do right now is map over the features data. So in React, you can do it like this. Open a dynamic block of code, say features data.map. In here, we get one specific item and we get the index of that one item. And now what do we want to render for each individual item? Well, as discussed before, we already have that feature component. So simply type feature, control space, and then you should be able to auto import it. There we go. Import feature from // components. Of course, if we save this right now, you're going to notice it's going to be 4 empty features. That's because we have to pass props into them. So we can say title is equal to item.title, text is equal to item.text, and then finally key is equal to item.title, and we can also do plus index to make it really unique so they have different keys. If we save this, you can now notice that we have 4 of the different features and they are looking similar as they are right here. This is the power of React. You can reuse the components that you've previously created. But of course, this is looking close to what we have on the design, but not perfect. So the next part we have to do is to implement the features.css. We can start with the .gpt3 _ features. Let's give it a width of 100%, like this. There we go. Then we're going to give it a display is equal to flex, as well as the justify-content is equal to space -between. Finally, let's also set the flex direction to be equal to row. Great. Now we can go to our second thing and edit the heading. Just below this, let's say .gpt3 _ features -heading. Right here, we can give this a flex of 1 also make this its own flex container. Let's simply say justify-content is equal to flex-start. Then we can do align-items, also flex-start. And finally, let's set the flex direction to be equal to column. As you can see, this is now looking a bit closer to what we need on the final design. Finally, let's say text-align is equal to left. And let's give it a margin-right is equal to 5 rem. There we go. Now the title is on the left side and we are ready to implement our features. It looks like that we currently cannot see the titles of these features. So let's go to features. And right here, I misspelled it. So this here was supposed to be item.title. Hopefully you noticed it. And there we go. That's instantly looking so much better because we have already implemented the classes for our feature component. Now let's go back to our features.css. And inside of here, let's continue with styling our h1 here. You already know the drill. We can go here, click it right here, and then copy most of the styles. That's going to be .gpt3 __ features dash heading and then h1. We can simply paste everything. As we always do, this is going to be var -- font - family, and everything else seems great to me. So if we save it, there we go. This is already looking so much better. Now let's copy this line, paste it here as well. This is going to be the paragraph styling. So we can go back and copy this paragraph styles and simply paste them in here. Again, for the font, we're simply going to use the variable. This is all right. And the color seems great as well. The only thing I'm going to add to this is going to be margin - top is equal to 2 rem. Now, if we go back, you can notice that this aligns great with this title right here. And we have all of the features on the right side. Let's just add some slight modifications to the container itself by saying .gpt3 __ features - container. I'm going to scroll up. Flex is going to be equal to 1.5. This is going to be its own flex container, like this. We're going to have the justify - content is equal to flex - start, and align - items is equal to center. Finally, flex - direction is going to be set to column. Let's save it. As you can see, now our features are aligned nicely because they are happening in a column, one below another. Great. Finally, let's just add some media queries to make this look great on tablet and mobile devices. We can say add media, screen, and max - width is equal to 990 pixels. There we can say .gpt3 __ features flex - direction is equal to column. So now if we open up the inspect element and go below 900 pixels like this, you should be able to see that these are going to appear in a column. I'm missing a 3 right here. So there we go. That small change is going to make all of these appear in a column, so it's more readable on tablet devices. Let's also change the margin. .gpt3 __ features - heading. Margin is going to be 0, 0, 2 rem, 0. And this just added a bit of margin right here. Finally, we can copy this entire media query, paste it below, change this to 550 pixels. And in this case, we're simply going to say .gpt3 __ features - heading, and then h1. In here, we can change the font size to be equal to 28 pixels and line - height to be equal to 38 pixels. There we go. Let's see how does it look like on mobile devices. There we go. Much better. Fits nicely on this not so wide screen, and the title and everything else is completely readable. Great. And believe it or not, with that, we're done with the features section. We have this entire part implemented. let's see it in its full glory on the full HD screen. I'm just going to extend this a bit. And there we go. Our features are right here. I think that now you can definitely believe me when I said that creating the entire project structure at the start is going to simplify things so much more later on. Let's check if the scroll works. As soon as you click here, it's going to scroll to a specific section of the screen. There we go. It scrolls to features, but it looks like our what is GPT-3 is not working. So let's fix that. We can go to our what is GPT-3 component. That is right here. And we can see that we specified the what GPT-3 WHPT3. Let's go to our navigation bar to see if we have the same thing here. So right here, that's going to be WGPT3. It's a bit different. So I'm simply going to copy this, go back to our what is GPT-3, and I'm going to fix this typo right here. This should have been G instead of an H. So let's see, WGPT3, reload the page, and if we click it, it scrolls nicely to that portion of the page. Great. The OpenAI part also doesn't seem to be scrolling. So let's see what is up with that. That goes to possibility. So let's find the possibility section. And that section hasn't yet been implemented. So that part is completely fine. But everything that we have so far works wonderfully. The next section on our list is going to be this big image with a woman with a VR headset. And again, the possibilities are beyond our imagination. So let's go ahead and start creating this section right away. We can of course start from inside of our possibility component. So let's add a class name to this div component. That's going to be GPT-3 __ possibility space section __ padding. And we're also going to give it an ID of possibility. That way we'll be able to scroll down to this section. Now inside of this div, I think you can already guess it. We're going to have one more div. This div is going to have a class name equal to GPT-3 __ possibility dash image. Inside of there, we're going to have an image tag that's going to have a source equal to possibility image. And it's going to have an alt tag that's going to say possibility. Now, as you can see, we don't have this image. So let's simply import it at the top. That's going to be import possibility image. And it's going to be coming from // assets. And then that's going to be possibility.png. Great. Now we have everything we need. Let's save it and see how does it look like. There we go. There's this huge image right away. Of course, we'll have to fix that with styling. Let's also add the content that we're going to see on the right side of that image once we make it smaller. That's going to be below this possibility image div right here. Our second div is going to have a class name equal to GPT-3 __ possibility dash content. And inside of there, we're going to have an H4. This H4 is simply going to say request early access to get started. So we can go ahead and copy this. Then below that H4, we're going to have an H1. This H1 is going to have a class name equal to gradient dash text. And we're simply going to copy the possibilities are beyond our imagination. Now, below that H1, we're also going to have a paragraph. So we can simply type p tag and copy the text right here. And finally, we're going to have another H4. So let's type H4 here, copy request for early access and paste that right here. And with that, we are done with our content and with the entire possibility component. Of course, we are yet to add the styles. So now let's go to the style CSS. Let's go to our code and see how does it look like right now. As you can notice, here's the huge image. And then on the right side, maybe we can spot our content, but no, unfortunately not, because it's all dark. So let's go ahead and make it lighter, add a gradient, and let's make it visible once we decrease the size of this image. So first we're going to say .gpt3 underscore underscore possibility, and let's set the display to be equal to flex, and we can also set the flex dash direction is equal to row. This is not going to make any changes right away, but now we can decrease the size of the image by saying .gpt3 underscore underscore possibility dash image. There we can set the flex to be equal to 1, like this. And let's also set the display of that container to be flex. Give it a justify dash content equal to flex dash start. And also let's align the items to center. Finally, we're going to give it some margin right of 2 rem. Of course, we still can't see the changes, but let's copy this. And then in here, let's target our image. Now in here, finally, we're going to decrease the size of that image by setting the width to be equal to 100% and also the height to be equal to 100%. As soon as we save that, you should be able to see that the image disappeared for some reason, but our text is right here. The reason why we can't see the image right now is if we inspect, and let's try to target this image right here. There we go. You can notice that right now it doesn't have any height, but if we remove this flex property, it appears right here. So later on, once we add all the flexes for the content as well, the image is going to appear because it's going to know its own height. Currently, it's a child in a larger flex container. So let's close this and let's continue with our content, and then we're going to add the image later on. So let's do .gpt3 underscore underscore possibility dash content. We're going to give it a flex equal to 1, and also display is going to be equal to flex, but it's going to be a flex direction equal to column because we want all of the content to appear in a column right here. Then we're going to say justify dash content is equal to flex dash end. And also we're going to set the align dash items to be equal to flex dash start. Okay. Now finally we can style each one of the headings, paragraphs, or titles. First, we can start with this H4 at the top. So I can copy this GPT-3 possibility content, and we can simply target the H4. Then we can duplicate this one more time, and then we can also specify H4 last dash child, because we have two different H4s. Remember, this one right here, request early access, and the first one is request early access. But if you look into the design, they are just a bit different, so we're going to have different styles for them. Then we have to target our H1, so I'm going to again copy this line, and I'm simply going to change this to H1. And finally, we have to copy it one final time for our paragraph tag. Now we can go ahead and implement all of these styles. So let's start with the H4, the first H4. We can go ahead into the design and simply copy all of the styles right here. There we go. Let's go over the styles to see if everything's good. As you already know the drill, we can exchange this for var font family. The font weight is going to be 500, font size 16, line height 30, and we can leave this unique color. If we save that and go back, reload the page, hopefully it's gonna work. Looks like it didn't, so most likely we misspelled something. Let's check it out. GPT-3 underscore underscore possibility dash content H4. Let's go right here, GPT-3, and in here I misspelled possibility. So as soon as we fix that, we can see the image and we can also see request early access. That's good. So another reason why this image wasn't showing wasn't only the flex, it was also the misspelling right here. Great, so now let's style the last H4 a bit differently. The only thing we have to do is go right here and copy the color. So right here, I'm simply going to give it this specific color. Let's indent that properly, save it, go back, and there we go. Now with the H1, you already know the drill. I'm simply going to copy all of this, paste it here, For the font family, it's going to be the same one as right here. The font style we don't need. Font weight is going to be 800. 34, 45 is fine. And we can save that and look at it. Right now, it's still not visible. So let's see where the issue is. That's going to be this one, H1 with the gradient dash text class name. I've made the same mistake again. This here is supposed to be gradient underscore underscore text. So as you can see, BEM methodology still sometimes gets me, but all in all, it's a great naming convention. Great. The last thing we have to do is the last paragraph tag. So let's go to the design, copy the styles right from inside of here, and let's just paste them here. The font family is going to be the same. Font style and font weight are normal. Font size is 16 and line height is 30. That's great. The color we already have saved, so we can simply say var, and then that's going to be dash dash color dash text. We can indent this properly, and I'm also going to give it a margin dash bottom is equal to 2 rem. Now, if we add a semicolon here and save it, go back to our site, and if we reload the page, and there we go. Here is our paragraph. Now our possibilities section looks great. Let's try to compare it with the design. There we go. We have this image on the left side, as we do here. And then on the right side, we have 4 different text elements. It might be a good idea just to add a bit more space in between them. So as you can see right now, we don't have a lot of space in between here. So for the H1, I'm simply going to add a margin to be equal to something like 1 rem and then 0. There we go. And that's going to be all that we need. Finally, we have to handle the media queries. So let's add our first add media screen, and max dash width is going to be set to 950 pixels. In here, we can say .gpt3 underscore underscore possibility. It's going to have a flex dash direction is equal to column. Now we can decrease the width a bit so we can see what do we mean here. And there we go. This is going to be around 950. And as you can see, the image goes above the content. Then we also want to give the image some margin. So we can say .gpt3 underscore underscore possibility dash image. And we can give it a margin equal to 1 rem and then 0. This is going to just space it out a bit. And finally, let's just add some more margin. So right here, let's do .gpt3 underscore underscore possibility dash content. We're simply going to say margin dash top is going to be 2 rem. And there we go. With this media query, I think we should also be good for larger and smaller devices. Let's take a look. This is going to be our full HD. It looks great. Now let's open up Inspect Tools. Let's see what do we have. So this is how it looks on mobile. Looks beautiful actually. I like this view. We have an image on the top and then we have our 4 different texts. Now if we extend it a bit, let's go to tablet. Again, the image is on the top. If we go to a laptop, there we go. The image is on the left side. A larger laptop, the image is a bit bigger. And this is exactly how it is on the design. So with that said, our possibilities section is done and we can go to our next section. As you can see from the design, our next section is going to be this click to action div. It's a really emphasized div that's going to have our button that we want people to click on. So let's go to our CTA, which means click to action, and let's implement this div. Shouldn't be that hard. Once we figure out the gradient, we just have to paste it, and that's going to be about it. So let's start with the class name. In here, we can add a class name is equal to GPT3 underscore underscore CTA. Then below that, we're going to have one more div. And this div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 underscore underscore CTA underscore dash content. Inside of there, we can have our paragraph, and a p tag is simply going to say request early access. So we can simply copy and paste that. And below that, this is a bit bigger, so we're going to make it an H3. In here, we can copy this. Finally, below this div, we're going to have another div, which is going to contain the button. So right here, we can give it a class name, and that's going to be GPT3 underscore underscore CTA dash button. And inside of there, we're simply going to have a button with a type of button, and it's going to say get started. Great. With that said, we can move to our styles, or we can see how does it look like right now, but it shouldn't look like something. Let's take a look. Yep, it doesn't look that good because it's dark on dark. So let's apply the styles. First, we can target the entire div by saying GPT3 underscore underscore CTA. Let's give it a border immediately so that we can see what we're working with. Let's do border 1 pixel solid white. There we go. So this is our content. And can we make everything inside of it with a color of white? Let's see. There we go. Now we can see the content as well. So I'm going to add a display is equal to flex. And let me just move this a bit to the right side so that we can see it better. There we go. Then we're going to justify content. That's going to be space between. That's going to move the button on the right side, as you can see. We can align items, and that's going to be center because we want to vertically align them. And then finally, we can leave the flex direction as it is by default, and that is a row. Let's also give it some padding, which is going to be 2 rem on all sides, and also some margin to divide it from the sides. Let's do 4 rem. There we go. Our div is already starting to look like something. Let's also give it a border dash radius of 1 rem. And finally, the most important thing is going to be our background. And if you think about it, or if you take a look inside of our index.css, we already have that gradient bar. There we go. This is already done gradient that includes the colors. Again, it was just automatically created using the software we used previously. So in here, we can simply say var dash dash gradient dash bar. As soon as we save that, you can see this looks a lot better. And now we can remove the border and the color because everything is visible. There we go. Let's see what other changes do we have to make. This here has to be dark. That's fine. So let's copy style by style for each specific thing. We can say .gpt3 underscore underscore CTA dash content. And we can first edit the paragraph tag, which is this one here. We can go ahead and copy the styles. There we go. Again, our font family is going to be var font family. Font style is normal, and we can keep everything else. Let's see. Okay, there we go. The font is applied, and now we can repeat the process for this as well. That's going to be GPT3 CTA content, and then we used an H3. Inside of there, I'm going to paste it, indent it, copy the font family, font style we don't need, and we can remove the comments and bring the color up. As soon as we save that, you can notice this is looking a lot better. And the last thing we have to style is going to be the button itself. So let's first style the button container .gpt3 CTA-btn. Inside of here, let's give it a display is equal to flex. Justify dash content is going to be set to center it horizontally. And finally, align dash items is also going to be set to center it vertically. Let's also give it a margin dash left of 2 rem to move it to the side. Finally, let's copy the styles for the button itself from our design. Let's click right here, copy. In this case, let's just take these two, and that's going to be .gpt3 underscore underscore CTA dash button, and then the button itself. We can paste that. And don't forget, for complicated elements, you also have to take the styles for the inner thing. So let's go ahead and copy this as well. Great. Now, if we indent that, let's see if we have to fix something. Background is going to be fine. We can bring the color to the top right here alongside the background. Border radius of 40 is fine. For the font family, we can copy it right here. Font style is okay. Font weight is bold. Font size 18, line height 30. That's great. Now let's save it and see how this is gonna look like. Okay, it doesn't look quite the same. So what we can do is we can apply the padding of 0.5 rem on top and bottom and 1 rem on left and right. This is going to just make it a bit wider and higher. And now we can also set the border to be equal to none. Also the outline to be equal to none. And we can set the cursor to be equal to pointer. And finally, we can set the min dash width to be equal to 150 pixels. There we go. This is our button. And you can see this click to action div or a section really complements the section we have above. It just makes it pop a bit. So this is great. Now, as we always do, let's make sure this looks great on mobile devices as well. We can do that by adding the media tag, screen, and max dash width. Let's do 650 pixels. First of all, let's see what happens around 650 pixels. There we go. This is below 650 and it's looking okay. But let's see if we can make just some small changes. Right here, we can say .gpt3 underscore CTA, and we're going to give it a flex dash direction is equal to column. As soon as we save that, you can notice that the button appears below the text. And that is completely fine because up to 640, it looks good, but below it's already starting to get crowded, so we need to have the button below. Then we can also say .gpt3 underscore CTA dash button. We can give it some margin, 2 rem 0, 0. There we go. This looks good. Now below 150 pixels, something like this, we also have to adjust the font sizes. So let's add a new media. I'm going to duplicate this one and simply say 550. What we can do here is for the .gpt3 underscore CTA, we're simply going to give it a margin equal to 4 rem and 2 rem. There we go. That's spaced it out a bit. And .gpt3 underscore CTA dash content h3. There we're going to set the font size to be equal to 18 pixels, like this. And we're going to set the line height to be equal to 32 pixels. Of course, I misspelled GPT-3 here. So GPT-3, there we go, made it just a bit smaller. And finally, we can do the same thing for the button. So I'm going to say .gpt3 underscore CTA dash button, and then the button itself. There, we can copy this, set the font size to be equal to 14 pixels, and then the line height to 28. There we go. This is looking just a bit more streamlined with the rest of the website on our mobile device. Now we can scroll up and see that we're kind of getting close to the end of this great design. It's looking great. Now, if we look at the real design, we can notice that the next section is going to be quite a big one, and that is going to be a blogging section. The newest article is going to be a big one, and then the 4 other are going to be smaller ones. So let's go ahead and code out the blogging section. To start coding our blogging section easier, we of course already have the file structure. So right here, our blog is just below the CTA. And as you can see, we're closely getting to the end of this video because the last thing we have to do is the footer. So let's go inside of the blog and let's implement it. Let's add a few class names to our first div. That's going to be class name GPT3 underscore blog space section underscore padding. Then we're also going to give it an ID of blog so that we can scroll to it. Below that, we're going to have one more div that's going to contain our header. As you can see, this is our title right here. So let's give it a class name. That's going to be GPT3 underscore blog dash heading. Inside of there, we can just have an h1 that's going to have a class name equal to gradient underscore text. And there we can simply copy this and paste it inside of it. Great. Let me space this out properly and go back to our application to check it out. There we go. As you can see, the text is here, but the font is not all right. We're going to fix that soon enough. But now we have to start adding the structure for our articles. So just below that, we can have a div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ blog dash container. Inside of there, we can have one more div for our top article. So right here, we can say class name is equal to GPT3 __ blog dash container _ group A. So this is going to be our group A right here. And then on the right side, we're going to have a group B. So let's go ahead and copy this div and simply paste it below. Everything is going to be the same, but here it's going to be group B. And now the question is, how can we render out this article right here? And how can we render out the 4 other articles on the right side? Now, if we save that, you're going to notice, well, you're not going to notice anything yet because everything is dark. But if we tried hovering over it, you can see that we have 1 article here and then 4 on the different side or just below it right now. Where I'm going with this is that these are going to be React components. So you'll be able to reuse the logic and the code from one article to all the other ones. So let's import our article component. Let's first see if we have created it before. Components, article, there we go. So in this case, we're simply going to import it by saying import article from // components. And then we can go inside of the article and then one more time inside of the article component. But if you think about it, you can see how long this import line is. We created an easier way of importing by simply putting this in curly braces and then importing it straight from the components like this. There we go. And now we can call our article component in these 4 places. So right now I'm holding the Alt key and then double clicking the words. And now you can add the article in 5 spaces at the same time. There we go. We're just going to call it as a self-closing component. Now, this is not going to make any difference because the article right now is just an empty div that says article. But let's go ahead and implement it right away. So right here, we're going to give it a class name equal to GPT3 __ blog dash container _ article. Inside of there, we're going to have a div. This is going to be the div for the image. So right here, we can say class name is equal to GPT3 __ blog dash container _ article dash image. Inside of there, we can render our article image. So right here, the image is going to be a self-closing tag that's going to have the source equal to image URL. And we can have the alt equal to blog image. Now, you might be wondering, where are we going to get this image URL from? We can, of course, import it from our assets, but how are we going to change that image for each and every article? And the solution is to pass it through props. So right here, we can put curly braces to the structure from props and then the structure the image URL. Now, how exactly does this image URL come from the blog all the way to the article? Well, inside of our blog, we're going to import all of our images. So right here, we can say import blog01, blog02, without spaces, blog03, blog04, and finally blog05 from / imports. This imports is something we've also created before. I think it was under the features. Nope, it was under the brand. There we go. In the brand, we have these imports. So we can simply go ahead and copy this and create a new imports file inside of this blog. So it's just going to be imports.js. We can paste it here, and we don't want to get the brands this time. We want to get the actual article images. So we can do that by saying import, that's going to be blog01 from assets blog01.png. So we can go ahead and repeat the process for blog 02, blog 03, also blog 04, and finally blog 05. And then we can export them right here. Blog 01. Let's also do blog 02, blog 03, blog 04, and finally blog 05. Now we are exporting all of them from this file. Therefore, in here, we can import them in one line inside of the curly braces. So what we have to do right now is simply pass a different prop to each one of these articles. Right now, I'm holding Alt and just clicking after the article so that I can say the image URL prop is equal to blog 01. And now I'm simply going to change the image for each of the next articles, just like that. And you'll be able to notice that right now we just have the images here. They are really large, but we have to style that, of course. Each one of the articles is also going to have a date, as you can see right here, and a title. These are going to be the things that also have to change. In this case, the article date is the same, so let's simply copy it, and let's pass it through props to all of the articles. We can do that by simply saying date is equal to a string, and I'm going to paste that everywhere. And in this case, the title seems to be the same for all of them, so let's go ahead and pass the title as well. Title is equal to, and we can paste it right here. Now, alongside the image URL, inside of the article component, we're also getting the date and the title, which we can make use of. Let's see, we have a warning here. It's saying that in the alt tag, we don't have to specify the word image because it already knows that. That's great. And just below this div, I'm going to create one more div. It's going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ blog dash container _ article dash content. And inside of there, we're going to have an inner div with no class names, but it's simply going to contain a paragraph that's going to render out the date. And then below that, it's going to render out the title, h3, and in there, it's simply going to contain the title like this. Let's see, we are accepting the date and title props. Is that what we're passing right here? Yep, we're passing the title. Great. Finally, below this div, I'm going to have another paragraph, and this one is simply going to say read full article. As you can see, that is on the design right here. So right now, if we go back, we cannot really see anything. We can see the articles, we see the text and the date, but it doesn't look good. So let's go ahead and implement the styles for the article.css, or should I say the article component. Let's start by the article container itself by saying .gpt3 __ blog dash container _ article. Let me just fix this typo right here. That's going to be container. I'm going to give it a width is equal to 100% and also the height is equal to 100%. Then I'm going to set the display to be equal to flex and flex direction to be equal to column. Finally, I'm going to set the background to be equal to var -- color -- footer. Now, if we save that, you can see that now each one of the articles has this background right here. Now we have to style the image. So let's simply copy this entire thing and just say -image. We're also going to give it a width and height of 100%. And we're also going to give it this background. So we can paste that as well. Finally, we can copy this one more time, but now we're going to target the actual image or the img tag. And we're also going to give it a width and height of 100%. There we go. Now everything is going to look great. Of course, we have to style the content as well to make it look better. So we can say .gpt3 _ blog dash container _ article dash content. Let's make it a display is equal to flex. The flex direction is going to be set to column to make the text appear below one another. Then we're going to have the justify dash content is going to be space dash between. And finally, let's give it some padding. like 1 rem on top and bottom and 1.5 rem on left and right. That's already going to make it look a bit more like an article. And let's give it a height of 100%. Finally, we have to style the text elements inside of here. So we can start by copying this. We have to style the P like this. So content and then the P tag. Then we also have to style, we can duplicate this. That's going to be an H3. And then one more time, we can duplicate the P tag because there's one more P tag, which is going to be a last dash child. Great. So we have to style all of these three. We can start with a paragraph. And of course, as you know the drill for the text, we can simply copy it. Our first paragraph is going to be a date. So let's go ahead and copy the styles for the date right here. We can paste them straight into here. Again, this is going to be var dash dash font dash family. The font style is normal, font weight is fine, line height is fine, and the color is white. There we go. That's looking a bit better. Now let's style this H3 by copying all of the styles, opening this class, pasting it here. We can duplicate the font family, and everything else is going to be copied from the design. There we go. That's looking a bit better. And finally, for the read full article, we can also copy that. The only thing that's going to be different about this is that it's going to have a cursor equal to pointer, because eventually we want to be able to click on read full article. Also, for our title, we want to give it a margin dash bottom of 5 rem. And finally, the cursor of pointer as well, because we need to be able to read that article. So now if we go back, this is already looking just a bit better. Now our articles have taken their shape. The only thing we have to do about them is just fix some mobile responsiveness things. And we can do that by saying add media, screen, and max dash width is going to be 550 pixels. In this case, we want to say .gpt3 __ blog dash container _ article dash content H3. We're going to set the font size to be equal to 18 pixels and the line height to be equal to 25 pixels, just to make the text a bit smaller on mobile devices. And with that, we're done with the article itself. But this is still not looking as it does on the design. And the reason is, we now style the article component, but we are yet to style the containers that these articles are in. So now we can go inside of the blog CSS and apply the styles for the containers. Let's start by applying a display of flex to our GPT-3 __ blog. So we can say display flex, and also flex direction is going to be set to column. This changed nothing yet, but if we say .gpt3 __ blog dash heading, we can give it a width of 100%. Remember, the heading is this thing right here. And we can also make the text align be left. And finally, we're going to give it a margin dash bottom is equal to 5 rem. There we go. Now we have this nice heading. Of course, we are yet to style the heading itself, so we can copy this, say .gpt3 blog heading, and then target the H1 inside of it. There, we can copy the styles for this specific heading. So let's take them right here. We can paste them right here. That's going to be var font family, font style is normal, font weight 800, font size 62, line height 75, and letter spacing is going to be like this. This seems all right to me. Let's go ahead and check it out. There we go, a large title above our blog. And now we can start styling the blog containers themselves. So let's say .gpt3 __ blog dash container. It's going to be the same as the blog itself, just a display flex with a flex direction, but this time it's going to be row because we want them to appear in a row. Of course, this is going to make it look bad at the moment, but as soon as we implement some changes, it's going to look better. Then we want to style the blog container, but now a group A. So we can say blog container _ group A. Remember, that's only the first article. So for that, we can say the flex is going to be 0.75. Let's save it. Okay, now the other articles are taking more space. Let's also give it a margin dash right is equal to 2 rem. Of course, I have to spell this correctly. There we go. You can see that now we have this first article on the left side. And now I'm going to copy this and just change the letter to B. For our second section, we want to have it a flex is equal to 1. And then we're going to use for the first time now, the display is equal to grid. If there is anything that you want to display in a grid, that's going to be something that looks like this: articles, cards, or anything like that. Now we can use the grid dash template dash columns, and that's going to be set to repeat to 1FR. Now, if we save that, we can notice that we have 2 per row. Great. Finally, let's add a grid dash gap, and that's going to be 2 rem. And there we go. By styling this container, this is already looking a lot better. Of course, if we expand it to full HD, it's going to look almost as it does on the design. That's great. There are still some small changes that we can make, so let's go ahead and collapse this a bit. And let's see what else can we do. The rest of the changes is going to be focused on media queries. So we can say add media, screen, and max dash width is going to be 990 pixels. For those devices, we want to say .gpt3 underscore underscore blog dash container is going to have a flex dash direction equal to column dash reverse. Check this out. Now they're going to appear like this. We could have also done just column. That way the top article would appear at the start. Again, it's your personal choice. I'm going to leave it as column reverse to display the 4 articles first. Then we need to give it some margin. So I'm going to say .gpt3 underscore underscore blog dash container underscore group A. So we can say margin is equal to 2 rem on top and bottom and 0 on left and right. That's just going to space it out properly. Finally, we can fix the width a bit. So we can say .gpt3 underscore underscore blog dash container underscore group A. And then we want to go inside of it to .gpt3 underscore underscore blog dash container underscore article. There we want to set the width to be equal to 48%. There we go. Now it's going to appear in line with all the other articles. And we can also change the height. So let's go ahead and copy this entire thing, paste it below. But now we don't want to target the article. We want to target the article dash image. And we simply want to set the height to be equal to 250 pixels. There we go. That made the image just noticeably smaller, but on different screen sizes, it's going to make more sense. Now we have streamlined articles. Great. Now we have to focus on even smaller devices. So I'm going to copy this media and I'm going to say something like 700 pixels. We can start testing different sizes right away. So I'm going to open up the inspect and let's see how does it look like on about 700 pixels. So let's open up the free tool, responsive, and let's extend this to something like 680. You can see the articles look a bit small. They're still okay, but there's something that we can do about them to make it a bit better. Let's say .gpt3 underscore underscore blog dash container underscore group B. And inside of here, I'm gonna say grid dash template dash columns is going to be set to repeat 1FR. If we save that, now we can see 1 per row. And in my opinion, on this specific screen size, this looks just a bit better. Of course, we have to focus on the last article as well. So let's simply copy this thing, this line right here, line 48 on my side. That's going to be .gpt3 block container group A and then GPT block container article. In here, we simply want to say the width is going to be set to 100%. Of course, this title in here is just a bit too big, so let's modify it. .gpt3 underscore underscore blog dash heading h1. Let's set the font size to be equal to 46 pixels. And then we can also set the line dash height to be equal to 52 pixels. There we go. This is looking just a bit better. And finally, we can decrease the size even more on the smallest of devices. So let's add a new media query. And this is going to be for devices below 550 pixels. We can copy this last thing in the last media query and change it to 34 pixels and then 42 pixels for the line height. There we go. Now this is making a bit more sense. Great. With that, our articles are now done. They look phenomenal on mobile devices. They all appear in one row. We have the heading here. Let's take a look at the tablet size. We have 2 per row. On laptop, we have this nice design. And finally, on larger laptops, it looks great. Now let's check it out in its full glory on the full HD screen. There we go. This is looking perfect. It's looking exactly as it does on the design right here. So the next thing we have to do is going to be this footer right here. This is not just the usual footer. As you can see, it also has this nice call to action with a button here, and then the normal part of the footer just below. To start creating this footer, let's collapse this a bit. There we go. And let's go to our app.js. So right inside of here, you can see that our last section is going to be our footer. Let's scroll down to the bottom of the page and let's actually implement the JSX for the footer. We can start by giving it a class name, more specifically GPT3 __ footer, and that's going to be space section __ padding. Then just inside of that, we can have that big heading as we do on the design. So I'm going to start by adding a div, give it a class name of GPT3 __ footer dash heading. And inside of there, we can have an H1 like this. That H1 is going to have a class name equal to gradient __ text. And we can simply go ahead and copy exactly what it says right here. There we go. Now, if we save that, we should already be able to see it right here. Then below that, we have to have this request early access button. So let's go ahead and create one new div below it. That div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ footer dash btn. And inside of there, we can simply have a p tag that's going to say request early access. Great. Let's see. There we go. Our text is just below. We're going to form that into a button with the styles. Now, of course, we have to implement the content for the footer. As you can see, this left side and the links on the right side as well. So let's go ahead and start with the left side, or rather with the div containing everything. So that's going to be a div, and it's going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ footer dash links. Then inside of there, we're going to have our div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ footer dash links _ logo. And this is where our logo is going to be. So we can just say image, and we can immediately specify the source, GPT3 logo, and the alt is going to be logo. Of course, we have to import this logo. So we can say import GPT3 logo, and that's going to be from // assets, and then logo. It's going to be a .svg logo. So we can save that. Let's see if the logo appears, and there it is. And just below that logo, we also have to say this thing here. I think that's supposed to be the address. So let's copy it, add a p tag below it, and simply paste it right here. Of course, it's not going to show yet because it's dark, but we're going to have something below this div. So below the div containing the logo and the p tag, and it's going to be another div. This div is going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ footer dash links _ div. So this is going to be a div for one of our next sections, this div right here. And we're going to have a few of those divs. So inside of that div, we can first have an h4, That h4 is simply going to say links, as you can see on the design. Then below that, we're going to have a few p tags. So we can say p, and then we can simply copy what it says right here. We can duplicate it a few more times. The second one is going to say social media, and we just have to do contact. And there we go. Of course, this is not going to look good yet, but we have to do two other divs. So we can simply go ahead and copy this entire div, paste it below, change the links to company, and change all the links below that. This one has just 3 links, so we'll be able to remove the other one. And finally, we have to do the get in touch. So we can just one more time duplicate this links div, say get in touch here, copy everything else. There we go, the phone number. And with that, we are done with our content. The last thing we have to do is going to be this all rights reserved at the bottom. So below this div and one more div, so just close to the end, we're going to have one final div that's going to have a class name equal to GPT3 __ footer dash copyright. And inside of that div, we can simply create a paragraph, and that p tag is simply going to say this. There we go. So now if we go back to React application, you can see that there is some kind of content here, but we have to style this properly. So let's go to our footer.css to add the styles. Let's start with the footer itself, .gpt3 __ footer. It's going to be a display flex, but let's do just one trick that we did before. Let's give it a border is equal to 1 pixel solid white. And also let's do text is equal to white, or rather just color. Color is equal to white. There we go. Now we can see everything and we'll be able to see what's happening. And as you can see, the border is right here on the outer line. So this entire thing is the footer. Great. So let's see what other classes do we have to add, or should I say styles. Let's make this a flex direction is equal to column. That way it's going to go one below another. Let's make it justify content is equal to center, and also align dash items is equal to center. There we go. And finally, we have to give it a background by saying background is equal to var dash dash color dash footer. There we go. Now we don't even need this specific border. This is going to be enough. And we can go ahead and start with styling the container for our heading. We can do that by saying GPT3 __ footer dash heading. And let's give it a width of 100%, like this. Then we can give it a text align is equal to center, and also a margin dash bottom is equal to 3 rem. There we go. Now we can style that h1 itself. So we can write here, say h1, and we can copy the styles from here. There we go. I'm gonna paste them in here. Of course, this is going to be var, font family, font style normal, and everything else is as we are used to it. As soon as we go back, you'll be able to notice that this is already looking so much better. Now we have to style the button. So let's simply say .gpt3 __ footer dash btn, and then immediately style the p inside of that btn. And we should be able to copy most of the styles from here. So I'll try to take this border right here. There we go. And then the text itself. There we go. So with buttons, you usually have to copy the styles for the button itself and then for the text inside of that button. Let's see if we have to change something. I'm going to save that, go back, and it's not looking perfect. So let's see, what do we have to do? Border is going to be fine. Font family, let's use the same one we've been using so far. So that's going to be var font family. Then we can add the word dash spacing of something like 2 pixels to kind of space it out a bit. And everything else seems fine to me, but I'm going to copy this above it because we need to change this container itself, not just the p tag inside of it. So we can simply give it a display is equal to flex. give it justify content is center and align dash items is equal to center. And the reason why we're doing this is because we're going to give it some padding of 1 rem right now. There we go. And also border of 1 pixel solid, and that's going to be FFF. So in this case, we don't have to add the border right here. Rather, we have to add it on the outer container like this. I'm also going to make this text dash align is equal to center. And finally, give it a margin dash bottom is equal to 10 rem. Now we have spaced everything correctly. And of course, to make this a real button, I'm going to add a cursor equal to pointer. Now, if we hover over it, this is looking great. Finally, we have to style these links at the bottom. So we can say .gpt3 __ footer dash links. Display is going to be set to flex. Justify content is going to be set to space dash between. Let's see the changes already. There we go. This is already starting to look much better. Let's align the items to flex dash start like this. If I properly type that, there we go. And finally, I'm going to give it a flex dash wrap equal to wrap, so that it wraps on smaller devices. And also let's give it a flex direction to row, because later on we're going to set it to column on mobile devices. Finally, I'm going to give it a width of 100% and text dash align is equal to left. There we go. Finally, we have to style each div separately. So I'm going to simply copy this, paste it below, and say width is going to be 250 pixels for each div. I have to fix this. There we go. And let's make the margin equal to 1 rem. But of course, this here is supposed to go to a div inside of the footer links, not the footer links themselves. So with that said, now this is spaced out better. Finally, we can edit out the logo. So we can say .gpt3 __ footer dash links, and then that's going to be _ logo. Let's make that display is equal to flex, and flex direction is going to be set to column. So we can see this one below another. And we can again copy this to modify the image logo itself. The only thing we have to do is add image img at the end. And let's copy the size from here. So I'm going to scroll here. This logo has a width of 118 and a height of 30 pixels. So I'm simply going to paste that here. There we go. And I'm going to give it a margin dash bottom of 1 rem. Great. This is looking a lot closer to the design right now. But as you can see, the logo and this address is the only thing on the left side. Everything else is appearing on the right side. So to fix that, let's edit the actual paragraph elements. .gpt3 __ footer dash links _ logo, and then the p tag inside of there. We can simply go ahead and copy it, but it's going to be fairly simple. It's going to be font family. We can copy the one we've been using before. So var font family right here. The font size is going to be 12, line height 14 pixels, and color FFF. Now if you go back and reload, there we go. We can now remove this white color from the top because we're going to implement it to other paragraphs as well. You can see right now we've been editing only this paragraph. So let's actually edit these divs. We can do that by saying .gpt3 __ footer dash links _ div. Let's give it a display is equal to flex. We can put the justify content is equal to flex dash start. And the most important thing, flex dash direction is equal to column. There we go. Everything remained the same. But now we're going to edit the H1s inside of there. That's going to be the company, the links, and the get in touch. So we can go ahead and copy one of them, or at least the styles for one of them. We can duplicate this and simply target the H4 inside of there. We can go ahead and paste those styles. The font family is going to be the same again. Font size 14 pixels, line height 16, and the color is going to be set to white. We can also give it a margin dash bottom equal to 1 rem. Let's take a look. There we go. Now we have these headings here, and we just have to edit the paragraphs now. So I'm going to duplicate this one more time. I'm going to change that to a p tag, and we can simply go ahead and copy how these should look. So I can copy it right here, paste it here. The font family is going to be, again, variable font family. 12 pixels for the font size, 14 for the line height. And the only thing we're going to do is we're going to add a margin 0.5 rem top and bottom, and 0 on left and right, and also make it cursor is equal to pointer. Now, if we take a look at this, this is looking so much better. The last thing we can do is going to be the copyright below. So right here, we can say .gpt3 __ footer dash copyright. In there, let's add a margin top is equal to 2 rem. Let's also add a text dash align is equal to center. And finally, a width is equal to 100%. There we go. And finally, we have to edit the paragraph inside of there. So we can target the same thing, but this time with a P at the end. And we can go ahead and copy the styles. So right here, I'm going to copy them. It's going to be the same as these styles here, but that's fine. We can use this var right there, and everything else is going to be the same. Let's see if we need this font feature setting. If we now save this, let's take a look. There we go. This is looking good. Let's see if we need this. Nope, that doesn't appear to make any change, so we can remove that line. And in my opinion, this is already looking like a great footer. You might wonder, why do they have it in 3 rows, or rather 4, including this, and we have it in just 2? Well, if I start expanding this, you're going to notice that it's actually fully responsive. Of course, we still have to add some media queries for tablet devices and mobile devices, but already right out of the box, it's looking great. So let's go ahead and add some media queries. That's going to be add media and screen max dash width is equal to 850 pixels. .gpt3 __ footer dash heading h1. In here, we simply want to decrease the font size to be equal to 44 pixels, and also the line height to be equal to 50 pixels. As we've done before, we simply want to make the text a bit smaller on mobile devices. So it looks like we have a typo here. In this case, that's going to be media screen and max width 850. So this is going to be on devices lower than 850 pixels. So let's go ahead and test that out. Right now we are on 600, so that should be good. There we go, looking fine. Now let's add one for devices below 550 pixels by copying this and changing this to 550. It's going to be 34 pixels font size and also 42 pixels for the line height. Now if we decrease this to below 550, you're going to notice the text just got a bit smaller. And we just have to add some margin to each div. So I'm going to say .gpt3 __ footer dash links div. And let's set the margin to be equal to 1 rem on top and bottom and 0 on left and right. That pushed it a bit to the left. And finally, we can decrease the font size for the p tags as well. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and that's going to be GPT-3 footer dash btn, and then the p tag right here. In here, we can set the font size to 14 pixels and line height to 20 pixels. That was for this button right here. It looks just a bit better on mobile devices right now. And the last thing we can do is for ultra small devices below 400 pixels of width, like this. Let's go ahead and copy this, paste it below. We simply want to decrease the font size just a bit more to 27 pixels, font size, and also line height to something like 38. There we go. So now this can fit on literally every single device. Let's go ahead and do some testing. I'm going to pull this on a full desktop so we can see better. There we go. This is how it looks like on full HD. Let's test with the mobile responsiveness for iPhone X. If I scroll down, this is a really good looking footer. Let's test with tablets. There we go, in 2 rows. Laptops, still in 2, but if we go on a larger laptop, it's starting to span in 3 different rows. We can also go to a 4K screen, and it's looking fine. That's another question you might have, like how would you style this on a 4K screen? Because sometimes there's just too much real estate that you have to work with. So do you just center everything, or do you spread it apart across the entire screen? I think everything should be in the center so that it's more clearly visible, so it's just gonna have some margins on the left and the right. But in this case, I don't think we should worry about that. The only thing we care about is that it looks good on most of the devices. But I gotta be honest, looking at this website in 4K right now, it's not even looking bad, it's looking great. Let's close this out and let's appreciate our newly built website in its full glory. We have this nice navigation bar with the sign in and the sign up buttons. This fully custom header with this gradient text, image on the right side, and the email address field right here. Right here, we have the brands section, and then this nice card with another gradient here that's going to emphasize the strong points of our brand. Then right here, we have some more, we call them features right here. All of these are the same component, but you can see how they're appearing in a different fashion. Some of them have the title at the top and then the text at the bottom, and some of them, with just a small change, have the title on the left side and the p tag on the right side. Then we have this great image right here with some more text, this click to action div, an entire blog section where we used the article component, and then we have our glorious footer. Our GPT-3 website is now fully built and it's looking amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed this build and you learned a lot along the way. Now is the time that we actually deploy it to the web. That way, you'll be able to share this project with everybody, with your friends, potential employers, and you'll be able to put it on your portfolio. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Finally, to deploy our website on Hostinger's fast servers, we can go ahead and close all the files and collapse all the folders. Then we can go to View and then Terminal. If your app is still running, make sure to press Ctrl+C and then stop it from running. Then you can run npm run build. This is going to generate an optimized React production build. And there we go. In just a few seconds, our build folder has been generated. So let's go ahead and right-click it and click Reveal in File Explorer. Once you know where your build folder is, let's open up the Hostinger's dashboard. You can go to the link in the description of the video and then log in, or go to hpanel.hostinger.com and then log in. There, you should be able to find the hosting for your domain name. Of course, if you didn't purchase the domain name just yet, because you have to figure out what is it gonna be, that's completely fine. I'm just going to show you the process of how you can deploy it, and then you'll know the process for every single website in the future, for your portfolio, for any deployed site, for your blog, and anything else. So in this case, I'm gonna click gpt3jsm.com, and then we can scroll down and go to File Manager. Right here on the left side, you should be able to see public.html right here. So double click it and it's going to open up the default.php. You can go ahead and delete that file. Once that is done, simply find your build folder, open it up, and then drag and drop all the files from your build folder straight into here. There we go. It's going to recognize them, and then let's simply upload. One by one, every file is going to be deployed, and then with them, our entire website. And there we go. Our files are now here. Before we go ahead and check our website, let's set up the SSL certificate. So you can search for SSL right here and simply click Install SSL. And there we go. In just a few seconds, our lifetime SSL has been installed. So let's go to our dashboard and let's check out our main domain. And there we go. Our website is deployed and it has an SSL certificate. Great. there's one main problem. All the images seem to be here besides the most important one, the first image that we can see. So let's go back to our hosting and let's go back to our file manager for just 1 second. There we can click the public HTML, and if we open up the static folder and media, we can notice that all of our PNGs and SVGs are right here, but our AI image, which is this one right here, is inside of our main folder. So it's possible that something happened while the file was uploading. So just click that file. Let's go ahead and click move. And we need to change the destination of where we want to move it to. We want to go into static and then media. Finally, we want to select this and move. This just moved our file, and if we close this, go back to our website and reload, we immediately see our glorious image right here. That's phenomenal. Sometimes some things with the file upload work like this, but don't worry about that. Even if we weren't able to debug this on our own, you could simply contact the Hostinger support on the bottom right, and they would be able to immediately solve your issue for you. With that said, let's take one final look at our finished site. We have this nice gradient right here, as well as this gradient text. We can scroll down to see this great gradient card, some of the features here, an image, a click-to-action div, an entire blog right here, and then a great looking footer. Of course, we can check that this website is fully mobile responsive. There we go. This is how everything looks like on the phone. Beautiful. I'm really happy how this project turned out. Let me know if you're happy with this project and if you learned a lot. Also below the video, there's going to be a challenge where you can add more features to this project and make it completely your own. If you want to build even more complex projects in the future, there's going to be a link to the newsletter down below to keep you up to date with the newest courses that I'm releasing. With that said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.